Watching your Super Morning Show here on Pan-African Television. This is Good Morning Africa, and specifically the newspaper review segment where we table all the relevant subjects for conversation. You hear from our panelists. You also get to be a part of the conversation by sending your number on your submission on the number that will be displayed on the screen. And please take note that your submission should be in text message or WhatsApp message and not calls. We don't pick calls on the show. I mean, there are exceptions, but today is not one of those days. But I'm very happy to be here to sit in for Bless Koko Alomaso on the show to engage our panelists on what they think about the topics that we will be engaging on today. And this morning, we'll be looking at the GRNMA strike and the fact that the mortuary workers receive more bodies daily due to industrial strike. Now, it's becoming more of life-threatening than an industrial action or some sort of, telling the government what their rights are and what they deserve. And telcos increase data bundle values following some judges' intervention. Also, we'll be looking at the withdraw 8% fuel levy by the minority, the charge of 8% levy. The minority says government should withdraw that levy. Also, can Ofori-Atta's family fight OSP over Interpol Red Notice? We'll be looking at that as well. So you be a part of the conversation by sending in your text message on WhatsApp or text message via the number that will be displayed on your screens. And also be reminded that we are live on Facebook. We are also live on YouTube, and so you can send your messages there as well so that we can read them as we advance in our conversations. But before I introduce my guest, let me go over the stories again. GRNMA strike, mortuary workers receive more bodies daily due to industrial action. Telcos increase data bundle values following some judges' intervention. Also withdraw 8% fuel levy, according to the minority. Can Ofori-Atta's family fight OSP over Interpol Red Notice? But before I introduce my guest, we'll take a quick break. When we return, we delve into the conversation.
For years, the Ghanaian passport has opened doors, across borders, across dreams. Today, we step into the future. With the new chip-embedded passport, Ghana is safer, more secure, and ready for tomorrow. We're working around the clock, literally, introducing 24-hour passport services, e-tracking at your fingertips, courier delivery to your doorstep, a 30% reduction in fees, and you get your new chip-embedded passport in under 15 days or in just 5 days with expedited service. Because your time matters, your dreams matter, and every Ghanaian deserves a passport process that is simple, dignified, and yours. The Mahama administration is breaking every barrier, so nothing stands between you and the world.
Right, welcome back to the show. This is the newspaper review segment with me, OHEMAA AGYEKUM. Before we went on that quick break, I introduced to you the topic for the purposes of those who just joined in. We'll be discussing GRNMA strike. Mortuary workers receive more bodies daily due to industrial action. Also, telcos increase data bundle values following some judges' intervention. Withdraw 8% fuel levy, according to the minority. Also, Ken Ofori-Atta's family fights OSP over Interpol red notice. And these are the topics we have tabled for discussion this morning. Be a part of it. Send your message on WhatsApp or as text message, or you can send it live on Facebook while you follow the show and be a part of the conversation. But this morning I've been joined by Dr. Jamal Mohammed, and he is a senior lecturer at the Ofori-Atta Technical University. He is here. My other guests will be joining me later on the show. But let me engage Dr. Jamal as we kick it off with our first topic, which has to do with the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association strike. According to the mortuary workers, they receive more bodies daily due to the industrial strike. Good morning, Dr. Jamal.
Good morning.
And thank you for always, heeding to our call and coming to share your insights on the show.
OHEMAA, thank you very much. Good morning. Let me say good morning to my colleagues at Ofori-Atta Technical University, where I was privileged to be re-elected as the chairman of the union. Let me also say good morning to my family, who have always been with me through thick and thin. We recently had a Salah celebration. Unfortunately, I couldn't give you meat.
Oh, no, it's not too late. The dog is trying to say, unfortunately, but I want to also let you know that it's never too late. It's not too late at all.
I want to say good morning to my workers who at ADRI. They have been very phenomenal. As a union leader, I've been in union business for over a decade.
Right.
And within the period, there are always times that certain decisions are taken. Sometimes it is biting on you as a leader, and as far as the people at leader are concerned. It is biting to the state. But in all of these cases, how do we move together in terms of union leaders, in terms of governance, and the people for whom we serve? So it's very important. And so when I see union decisions, sometimes I am always quick to read in between the lines before certain comments are passed. We have seen the gravity of this issue because sometimes nurses, they deal with human beings, and so we see them to be critical stakeholders in terms of our well-being. And so we say that, okay, they have gone on strike. We have a number of people dead in the process, and there are two things that we always will ask. Assuming their issues are addressed, can we bring those people who are dead to life? That is sometimes very critical issues. And when you look at state, that is why there are certain people who call them essential services. And so calling a strike should be a last bullet. I'm not saying other sectors are not important. Just some few days ago, you might have heard in the news that those of us in the higher education teaching fraternity have given government some cushioning.
Ultimatum,
that if government refuses to adhere to some of these things in terms of our welfare, we're going to hit the street, or we're going to ensure that we go on industrial action and all those things. But coming back to this, the question I should be asking is that, has there been a good faith in terms of negotiation? Because negotiation that comes in the spirit of good faith tend to bring the parties to the table and then resolve issues that are there, and dealing with issues to ensure that at the end of the day, people do not suffer. Because, for example, a patient didn't choose to die because somebody is not available. And so I listened to the president, Mrs. Ambofo. I listened to her. She said they have been engaging the government, and the government was not forthcoming. And then I remember that was yesterday, TV3, and they asked her as to what was the form of engagement. Such they've been writing letters. I felt that was not unionism. You see, you write letters, one. You request for meeting, two. And then even...
What if the letters that they had written, based on the content, requested for the in-person sit-down meeting, which will perhaps lead to some form of progress in this whole...
Yes, so that is what, in fact,
issue.
As I said, I haven't actually had the content of the letter.
Right.
I like writing.
Apparently there are letters, so there are quite a number of them.
Yes, that's what she said. She wrote, I think she mentioned twice. I'm just speaking from where she said yesterday, what she said yesterday. And so I like writing.
Yeah.
And so when I engage people, first of all, I want to go on a good faith. And so I write. And even leading my people will tell you that when I tell them I will do this, I'll do it. And so I write. When I first write to remind you that ABCD agreements have been, was ensued, and we agreed that we were going to do ABCD. That was 1, 2. Then we write to request a meeting. And I think that that section, that sector is quite essential. Right? It's quite essential. And so when you want to negotiate with people, you must come with good faith. And that's, I'm not saying she didn't do that. I'm just trying to give her some perspective. You see, perceived thought and perceived affiliations do break linkages in terms of how we deal with each other.
Right.
Assuming there is a mistrust between the two of us, how do we engage? In the context of their engagement, there were some breakaway groups who felt that they were not even engaged, and that decisions were even taken at their council level, and they were not engaged. And so it's have to have protracted the forward march of the nurses. And so going forward, if you listen to what she was saying that it was because of government inattitude in terms of meeting their demands. That is how they were sued. You know, they were sued and fined.
And they were also injuncted.
They were also injuncted
for going on the strike.
On the strike. Yeah. No, normally that is the standard procedure.
Yeah.
If you want to, as a union, if you want to go on strike, you grant government the notice and the Labour Commission the notice that you're going to go on strike. Now, there are two things the Labour Commission will do. The first thing they will do is that they will going to write to you to ask you to stay on and ask for a meeting. And the other one will be that they will write to the people for which your employer and draw his attention and ask him to also appear in the meeting. And so normally when you do that, you meet Labour Commission and then you bring your views, they bring their view, then they will then ask the employer, if it is that what they are seeking is right, go look at what they are saying as two parties and come to report to us. That's all what Labour Commission does. That's basically...
They are the mediators.
They are the mediators. In fact, they also have the rule as a high court.
Right.
And so you go to them and they make this decision. Now, there are certain times decisions from Labour Commission may be unfair. I have been, as I said, I have met them over 30 times in our line of work. And there are some of them, you look at their directions and you think that they are not fair. There are some of them, you think that they are fair. And even if the direction is not fair, you still have an opportunity to come back.
Right.
And so my challenge was that these processes went through, because it's very important and legitimate. Because there are certain times sector ministers may be unable to be aware on dealing with some of this. Because remember, there are a lot of things in the plate, and that they have to itemize them one after the other and deal with them. And so once Labour Commission would have done all of this, the next thing would have been that if there is a stalemate and you still went ahead to declare strike, they'll still call you and ask you to call off a strike and come to the negotiation table. Because at the end of the day, lives will be lost.
Yeah.
You will still come back to the negotiation table.
Yeah.
But even if government says I'm going to pay, government cannot unilaterally sit down and say pay everything in the condition of service.
Yeah.
As I sit here, we had condition of service, house condition of service, that was last 2023. We had certain key elements of the condition of service that were not approved. And they were told that let's hold this after election, we kickstart those things. And we still have issues. And so I was thinking that if all these things have gone through, then the leadership could have met with the government. And then we have in condition of service, and I read it, I have a copy of that. If you look at the condition of service, some of them are non-monetary. Yeah. Some are monetary. Yeah. And some of them are matters of IGF. If you look at it, they are matters of IGF. And so I think that if they deal that with each other in good faith, I mean government vis-a-vis the nurses, the leaders of the nurses, they sit together, then they could have itemized and cost those ones which are monetary. And
even prioritize in terms of what is more pressing.
That is what I'm saying. They will look at the cost. When they look at the monetary one, government will then begin to now say that, okay, if you look at this, it has to be budgeted for, which is very important. Because you see, sometimes, I think there was a strike we went. we had set the budget, and that is what we do. Before we go on strike, we would have looked at the budget. Which of these things that the government had budgeted for?
Yeah.
Is there any allowance for which we can be able to get something from the government? And so which of these things that government has budgeted, and how much would be the contour? Can we go take our share from it?
But it looks like this particular situation, does not to say that the government is not aware, or they are not aware of, the monetary value involved. The government doesn't seem to be oblivious of the monetary value, because yesterday the Deputy Finance Minister said that if it is going to throw Ghana off the budget gear, and will be, in depth of in excess of 20 billion Ghana.
Yes, I heard him.
So it's not like the government, it doesn't look like the government is oblivious or unaware of.
So this is how, you see, some of us, as you grow in unionism, you must learn to negotiate.
Yeah.
You must have strategic dealing with, strategic knowledge or foreknowledge in how you deal with state apparatus. They had done negotiations somewhere July in 2024.
Yeah.
Over the period, they have had negotiations, and the thing never was paid in December. Now there are two things. I'm not holding brief for government, but there are two things.
But which was under the SWAL administration.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm not holding brief for government.
For government, right?
If there has been a continuation of the old government, at least those who handle those scheduled office duties would have been very proactive in dealing with that. Even with us, you can even say we have our what do you call it, book and research allowance. Some of us, our check says that those who were scheduled officers have been moved. And so once they have been moved, sometimes the new scheduled officer will have to acclimatize himself to the situation and deal with it. And so if a new government had come, I was thinking that the leadership would have even be faster to try to strike that kind of relationship and then bring it to fore. Okay, you see, I'm leading people. They are struggling, which I agree with them. I'm telling you, in terms of wage issues, things are not good. They are struggling. And so it is just the approach in dealing with the matter. That's what I think has not been good. Because if you look at the posture of their executives, I don't want to single out somebody, they stand far. But that is not how negotiations are done.
Yes, because it looks like they have an entrenched position.
That's what I'm saying. They stand far, and you see,
and when you are ready to even
no.
Talk
And when you are
anything.
dealing with government machinery, people don't understand governance. Governance is like a system that is co-convoluted. That if you want to actually decouple it and get whatever you want, you must be seen to have that kind of rapport with them. And so you cannot stand far from the processes and want to deal with the processes. And so for me, I think that their leadership must come. And you listen to the General Secretary speak. I said, what? I listened to him just last week. I said, I don't think that is how you can't stand far and shouting. And when you are shouting, the other person will not hear you. And so my advice is that there are trouble issues that we are having. If the government wants to go high-handed, I say, look, give them within the week, they will see a court injunction on them. And when they go, the court will grant that because of certain loopholes that I have identified, which I will not share on air. But I think that in the interest of good faith, government should meet them halfway. Meeting them halfway, they must concretely set a look. Because, for example, if Ghana is going to, these are economic thinking, and as someone who is a student of economics, I think that even if I'm going to be part of people who are running the economy, I'll think the same way. Because one layer in shifting economic policy will throw all of us, including you, off there. Because when there is spiral changes in inflation, it will lead to transport prices, it will lead to changes in other variables in the economy, and the economy will be difficult to manage. And so if government cannot do that, government is thinking it's 2016, I think that is also too far a time. Government should say that, okay, if I inject this quantum of money's allowances to them, this is how I'm going to be able to solve that issue. And so government should meet them that I can pay 1, 2, 3, but I can pay 3, 4, 5. They do the estimate. You can't go to a drama with some estimate. So they should also sit down and do scenarios. And scenarios analysis are very important to me. When I meet people, anytime I do engagement, I always want to have scenario thinking in my brain. So that when I meet you, and you say you can't give me this, what about this? If you cannot give me this, where can we meet so that we take away the wedge, then we have a middle ground? So it is very important. So their leadership must first sit down. They should go to a drawing board, itemize that part of their.
But don't you think it will be a lengthy process?
It's not lengthy. This is just financial engineering. Financial engineering, among them, they have a lawyer, they have consultants.
Because this is at the detriment of lives, like people who, you know, are dependent on the services of nurses and midwives here in Ghana. As our topic even indicates, mortuary workers are reporting, you know, high cases of bodies carried to the mortuary. And do we have to wait, for instance, do we have to wait for
people to die,
a week or two of negotiations and the pussyfooting and, you know, I want this, give me this now, and, you know, all that razzmatazz? Do we have to wait that long?
No, but the issue is that someone has to govern. You know, it's very important. There is something we call, there is thin line between politicking and economic thinking.
Right.
And so if government will get up and say, okay, these people will die, I agree. There will be another crop of people who also come out. And you see other unions are just waiting. The moment this is done, they also come with their issues. And so for me, I'm not saying lives are very important.
Right.
I think the speed with which they are dealing with the matter is what is problematic.
Right.
But if government is going to agree in doing some of these things, government also have people who advise him. And there will be people who look at the health of the economy. They look at the health in terms of the economic health of the economy.
Right.
They look at the financial health. They look at even the actual health that we are all going through. And so their leaders maybe might have taken those decisions, knowing very well that it will bite. But if I were government, I won't prefer solutions, as I say. If I were government, there were things in the moment they make you could have what we call a plan B. Then two, you take them to the drawing board with your numbers. They should also come with their numbers. In fact, if you ask us as teachers, for example, teachers in the universities, we don't go to meeting without actually knowing what we want. And we know that if government says this is how we are going to go. And so in terms of death, they will be deaf. But the question is, how do we account for those things? And so their leaders, I think that their leaders must become strategic. They should get consultants. They should request meeting with government and think what they can part and what government can part. And then the economy will be healthy for all of us.
Be healthy for all of us, right. Very interesting submission from Dr. Jamal Mohammed. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. This is the Good Morning Africa show on Pan-African Television. Now, our viewers on Facebook are also coming through with their submissions. And this one's coming from Koja Sempa Furniture Works. He says, what a great morning show indeed from Koja Sempa Furniture Works. Edum Kumase. Thank you so much, Koja Sempa. Big shouts to you for choosing to join us on the show. This was coming from Real Ghana. Says, good morning, OHEMAA, your able panelists watching you live from Lagos, Nigeria. OHEMAA, by Tuesday, July 1st, 2025, a significant overhaul of internet data values and prices is set to take effect, promising enhanced benefits for consumers across Ghana's telecommunications landscape. This major reform comes as a directive from Honorable Sam Nate George, signaling a proactive step towards addressing public concerns over data affordability and accessibility. Kudos to President John Dramani Mahama and his able ministers. Ghanaians are grateful. Thank you so much for your contribution. And let's check on WhatsApp, what our viewers are also saying on WhatsApp. Thank you. I think the same person sends the... Okay. All right. So this is also coming from Lagos, Nigeria. Ofori-Atta and the Bible, a conflict of interest. Bible touting finance minister, a finance minister who uses his own bank data bank as an advisor to the Ghana Ministry of Finance. He is in charge and charging for fees and commissions, a complete conflict of interest, a complete thieving, a complete lack of accountability and transparency, a complete lack of segregation of duties. Does Ofori-Atta know the number of Ghanaians with prostate cancer in Ghana? Prostate cancer is curable with the proper diagnosis and early treatment. Yet this kleptomania made all the money, which could have made a huge difference in Ghana's healthcare. And his fellow monsters are still supporting him, but he will have to answer to Ghanaians whether sick or healthy. And this is coming from Haj TK, Lagos, Nigeria. This one is also coming from Kwablavi of Pokuase, Benghazi. Family of Ken Ofori-Atta can't use threats to cause fear and panic against the office of the Special Prosecutor. Their threats won't stop Special Prosecutor from arresting Ken Ofori-Atta for corruption. Ghana is bigger than Ofori-Atta's family, so they can't do anything to stop this corruption case. Right, thank you so much for your message. All right, so I'll be reading more of the messages as the conversation progresses, but let us, Doc, would you want to say something, you know, to round it up on the GRNMA?
Yeah, so what our advice is that in negotiation, one of the cardinal principles of negotiation is good faith.
Right.
And so the leaders must begin to crunch the numbers.
Yes.
It's very important, because if you are going to a meeting, you must know that the one who is going to give you the money has the money to give you.
Okay.
And so the leaders should get someone with financial engineering. It's simple. This cannot take more than 2 days. You take these are the, and if you look at it, their condition of service is like the normal condition. It is itemized. This one pays by a government. So multiply that by the number of nurses you have, and multiply by 12 months. That's a year. So assuming I have seen some 3 cities, 50 pesos, uniform allowance, all these are, so you multiply them. Then the question now is, then you do scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3. If I go with this scenario, what do you think government will say? Because bear in mind you, one day, all the other unions are quiet, and we have so many unions in Ghana. Some are just waiting. When they give it out, then they will also take their condition of service and go and match with DS and say, why did you give nurses uniform allowance? Me, military, don't I deserve military uniform allowance? He will say, oh, the teachers will also take it and ask, you have given nurses this. Why don't, so government is not oblivious of those things. They are thinking that whatever that we give them in this dispensation, in this time that we said there was no money, we are doing what we call contractional fiscal policy, contractional monetary policy, where government is not spending much. People say, but you say you're not spending. Look at how much you dole out to nurses. And so, for me, they should be good fit. And their leaders should not be fired. They should not be fired and shouting.
Right.
They should come to the table. You see, there are certain times to be able to bring the fight to the person. Look, we want to solve the problem, but these are our scenarios, and I think that if they do that, it will help the country.
Right. Still on the nurses and midwives strike, we just received another message. It says, it is alleged that the leader of the striking Registered Nurses and Midwives Association is a woman. My question is that how a woman should behave for human beings to lose their lives? And what are the women groups in the country doing about the inhuman behavior?
No.
I don't think this is gender-based.
It's not.
This has nothing to do with gender and being a woman or the gender disparities that you may have identified in this situation, this substantive issue. But this has to do with labor rights, and it is rather unfortunate that it is it has become more life-threatening than people fighting for their rights in their various workplaces or their various professions. So we are, I mean, I am disheartened because I saw a video of a pregnant woman stranded in a hospital which was virtually empty.
But you see, to add to that, even with nurses' presence, I don't know whether you've gone to hospitals that's even they are there. I'm not singling out like a profession. The call to duty to serve in Ghana is a problem.
Well, so to an extent.
You go to hospitals, they are still working. People are there. You look at that emotional intelligence in dealing with patients. And so let me compare something. When teachers go on strike, sometimes people don't understand the value of the damage it does to the economy. Look, you go on strike, they say, oh, no life is lost. It takes a longer period of time, and that thing then gets into the system. And the child come out with that level of knowledge that is half-baked. And so these are some of the permutations sometimes people don't actually understand. And this happened in Canada some years back, where teachers say, okay, if you say you're not going to pay us more, we'll teach them. What they taught the people, finally that they had to be taught again. Cumulatively.
So the teachers did not put in the full efforts that they had to put in. So it is just like
when you stress, just go to, look at the educational system.
Right.
You go to NAT, you go to their members. When do they report to school? How do they teach? What are the roles and responsibilities that as to whether they follow or not? And so, because human being is dying, sometimes we tend to empathize with them. And whilst we empathize with them, sometimes we have been taken for granted. That is just one wing of the argument. But I think that their leadership, as I said, must be smart. You see, sometimes when you're dealing with government, government would necessarily keep his money, wanting to maximize the use of the money. And so expenditure base, which is going to reduce the content of the money, government will push back. So one, you must be very smart in dealing with the government. Make sure you establish that base of relationship, not friendship. A relationship that it is based on mutual respect, where someone sits down and says, okay, what this I need, this is how I think it could be done, and government will begin to dole out the money to you. But
in the amidst these procedural necessities and your recommendations to the leadership of the NMA and also to government, who suffers? Say when two elephants are fighting, the grass or the ants that will suffer.
No, but in the long run,
we are the ones who suffer for it.
In the long run, let me give you an example. If government secures an injunction and you defy the injunction, the leadership will go to jail. That's one way. Two, if I don't want us to go to the legal task. If government secures an injunction, they will end up not paying salaries of all the nurses. I get it. And I've seen a lot of mockery on social media, how people are cartooning images of people and say these are retired nurses who are coming to take over. But I tell you, the state must weigh all of this. The economic difficulties on the state when these monies are paid. Then the human life that is lost. And then how we can hold everybody accountable. How do we hold government accountable? How do we hold the leadership accountable and the people accountable? And so for me, as I said, proactiveness is what unionism is all about. When I go to deal with people, the first thing I sit alone to ask is that, okay, this decision I want to take, how does it translate into a win-win situation? Because at the end of the day, if you are going to give me the money, you're also going to look at what happens to your governance processes and procedures. And so government must look at this side by side. And then, but I'm telling you that if they were to be good faith, I don't know, just play, sometimes take your time and play the interview of the president. Play the interview of the general secretary. And ask yourself, after all this, you do the media banter. They're going to look at the minister. How are you going to look at him? Do you get it? You can tell him they want, they can go to hell. You come and meet. I have done, as I said, we have done series of negotiations. But at the end of the day, the difficulties will come. You will still laugh within the confines of the boardroom. Then you still get what you want. And the person will want to even see you the next time. And so for me, I think that if this doesn't go this way, they should change their strategy. And so government is courting the public dissent on them. I don't know if you observe that. Government is getting public opinion. Their leaders are also getting some level of public opinion.
But government to the minister yesterday said that there's a roadmap.
That is what I'm telling you.
If they come to the negotiation table, there's a roadmap that they
will
have.
Follow.
Yes.
And that is what I was just talking about. They should. I don't want to use that. I don't want to speak for government. I don't want to speak for them. But what I'm saying is that.
No, but then what has government said? Like we are working with the fact that
you will not be able to see the roadmap because if there is a roadmap, it comes from government. Now, the union leaders will go look at the roadmap, agree or disagree, come back, and you sometimes look. Let me give you one example. Somewhere 2023, I'm still using 2023.
Right.
Our conditions were worse off from 114 to 33%. 114% of what we are earning came to 33% because of the dollar-CD parity. So we sat down, we brought all the numbers together. A week we're in Accra, sleeping in hotels, paying at the expense of the union. When we did the numbers, We met the fair wages. They gave us their viewpoint.
Yeah.
We disagreed. The Minister of Education came in, brought Minister of Finance and Labour. We sat and we looked at the numbers. They brought their numbers. Final numbers were right. Now they said, okay, your numbers are right. This is our roadmap. We said, no, let's go back to do some caucus meeting. When we went and sat down in Accra here, we did some caucus meeting. We said, no, if they give us up to this ceiling, because of its impacts on the budget, we will take it. But you know what happened? When we came to the meeting, we had disagreement. We still stood for 114. We came. Finally, they gave us more than what we requested. But they didn't know. I don't know what
and maybe you used your economic expertise to...
No, I'm saying that when you lack knowledge in something, look for a consultant.
Right.
The first thing they should do is to look for someone who has financial engineering. And this issue we are talking about can be done within 2 days.
Right.
This thing, a consultant can just sit one day, generate the scenarios into 4 scenarios, go to the meeting with the government. Okay, so let us project what we have. And government say, okay, fine, you have done all of this. Government would have looked and say, oh, this one may not be able to, may not even through the budget of as we have said. If government is meeting them 1/3, 20 billion, right?
Yes.
1/3 of that is in the numbers of 7 billion. That will not be too fatal. You will still get them to be working. Whilst you spread out the other ones in the long term. And so they should come with numbers. If you don't go to a meeting and you go there and you sit down and looking at people, would actually telling them, oh, I want this, I can't give you that. You will always have a stalemate.
Right.
And so I think that they have to think about those things.
Right.
And they should have somebody who understands them, because sometimes you don't know everything. In our meetings, when we go for meetings, we are always lacking our executives. We have somebody who has financial analysis, someone who has accounting, someone who has economics. And so we blend all of this. And so when
I think that's your advantage.
Yeah, so when you speak, but in time past, other unions always go for consultant.
Right.
You get it? It was
sometimes part of the...
We are not part of the union. We win with a lawyer. When we come, we bring a lawyer. So the lawyer sit down and listen. You see him talk to the president. No, I think this will tie our hands. Let's look at it from this way. That will tie our hands. Let's open up this way.
Yeah.
And so when we are done, we scratch out the conditions of service. You realize that we will read it to the hearing of everybody, with our lawyer and their lawyer. And at the end of the day, we go home happy, government goes home happy.
Everybody is safe.
Everybody is safe.
Right. Still, we have some submissions coming through. This one's from Joseph Dambai, OT region, says, good morning. I think that GRNMA is becoming very difficult. The entrenched position is clear that there's politics behind it. Again, everybody knows the political leaning of Madam Perpetua. Why will she organize whilst outside the country? Posterity. I'm sure he's trying to, he or she, okay, Joseph, he's trying to say posterity.
Yeah.
Say prosperity, right? Thank you very much for your contribution. Let me do these ones and then we can proceed. Good morning, Pan-African TV. I would like to see the breakdown of the demands of the nurses. I would like this to be presented on your screen. Thanks. All right, we'll find it and do due diligence. This one also says, why didn't the nurses go on strike during the previous government with whom they signed the agreement but failed to fulfill its side of the bargain at Sanko Santa Maria? That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Good morning, OHEMAA. Every little child in Ghana knows Ken Ofori-Atta has messed up our economy and siphoned our monies into his private businesses. So the family should give Ghanaians a break. After all, they are the beneficiaries. The OSP must bring home Ofori-Atta, period. No bargaining. He has sent many citizens to the land of the dead. Some down with stroke, all because of this man Ofori-Atta. So his so-called sickness is not special to those who died and are down with stroke. Sami Adenta. All right, thank you for your submissions. But we are going to go into the Ken Ofori-Atta matter very soon. Right, so let's do the telcos increased data bundle values. So the bundle values have increased, and this is thanks to the Minister for Communication, Sam George, he has intervened by helping Ghanaians, you know, lessen our burden of buying data. I mean, it was quite a burden to buy data. You wake up the next morning and your data is gone. You buy data for such a high amount to receive just minuscule of the value of the money that you have paid. And so let me hear your thoughts on this, Doc. What do you think this does for the country in terms of our telecommunications sector?
Okay, so let's say we want to say thank you to the minister for the proactive rule in ensuring that we have data. But I have issues with Ghana in terms of our telecommunication space.
Right.
Sometimes I'll be making a call and the call will drop. Do you know you can't do that in any civilized country?
Really?
Yes, call drop. And they will still take your credit.
Your data, credit.
Credit.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you okay? Our telecommunication gents have become so powerful that they are cheating us. There are problems, and the nation seems not to. We seem not to be gripping them to ensure that they give us value for money. This is just one minute functional rule of these telcos. But why not government would have met them a bit in terms of, let's say, tax holidays, and insist that they deploy infrastructure in the whole Ghana? OHEMAA, look, I go to UK, I have places that I go, I can use internet free of charge.
Yeah.
You go to any developed country, you have many public spaces, you can use internet free of charge. Why can't we even have a small levy on all of us who live in the city, where everywhere there is internet? Because once there is internet, it will improve productivity.
Right.
Once there is internet and the data is cheap, you see.
Because everything runs on internet.
I'm just laughing.
Sometimes I don't have data and
you
it's
feel
like,
sad.
It's not like you feel sad, you feel stuck.
That's it. So
because I'm using data to order for a boat or a yango to wherever I'm going.
That is it.
I'm using data to pay on my apps.
I'm laughing because our standard of living. Do you know that the quality of data you have and how much data you are able to use measures your quality of life?
I agree. I agree with that 100%.
Yes, you see, as economists, you normally use the GDP as a macro variable to measure the wellness of the country. But how much of electricity you consume? How much of food calories you consume? How much of internet infrastructure that the nation deploys and members and citizens access are all measures of quality of life. And so in one way, the data increment is a quality of measure that we are going to get. But sustainability and the infrastructure that is deployed, you may get the data. I bought one network, and in my area in Tamale, my children are struggling to access data, and I've paid for it 1 full year. They are struggling to have data. So every time I have to send data to their phone. After school, if they want to do their work, they want to download some things from YouTube to watch and do, and that's what their school does.
Learn with,
They learn. I still have to send them an additional data. I'm serious. And so you may have the network data given to you at that colossal volume, but accessibility is going to be a challenge.
Right.
And so, and I also understood, he said they were going to provide them more gateways. But aside the gateways, what policies can we enact as a nation whereby we have even zones in cosmopolitan city like Accra? They should have zonal level that, look, for this radius you should have internet. For that radius you should have this quality of maybe gigabytes of data that you could be able to use. I get in my so that government can easily say that, look, citizens are well off. Sometimes someone is mad. By the access to data, he can use that to do other things and become okay. And so this is a very good start for us. But the minister must fashion out policies and other tougher regulatory framework because they are cheating people. Look, I don't want to mention networks. The network, I use all the networks. And you have call drop rate, which is very high. You make call and it went through, they take your this, and you don't have, you report, nothing happens. Security issues with the network, very porous.
You
understand?
I agree. And even recently, these interoperability,
yes,
the mobile money transactions, people just hack into people's
and
accounts,
they take money,
and the service provider is unable to do anything.
Nothing, and he tells you that I can't do anything about it.
For the victim, it's quite worrying.
And so for me, the data is a level idea. That is at least one step at a time. But I think that they could balloon it because look at how they increase it. We used to buy one of the networks I mentioned that I have the router. You buy data some amount, they just increase it exorbitantly. And so sometimes when I'm going out of my room, like I'm going outside my house, I have to remove the plug.
So that doesn't run. You treat it like a utility.
Yeah, so
that doesn't run.
So it happens like
this is data conservation.
I'm telling you. So and there are certain apps I run on my laptop.
Yeah.
That has to be continuously functioning. And so I'm doing some research work, and I heard someone knock at the door, and I have to go out. I have to take the plug. So that when I come back, then I'll do it. Has to go through.
Oh, it's not bad that even you have to meet someone at your gate. You have to plug it.
Yes. Look, you buy. They said the last I bought about 400 and something. I know this thing can take me like 4 months. Not after 2 months, the thing is gone. And I said, I was connected, it's not connected. And I checked, I said, I have 5 megabytes. I said, what?
Well, someone drew my attention after this news popped up yesterday that. What they fear is that, well, the value has increased.
The volume has increased.
The volume of data has increased, which decreases the value.
Yes.
That means if I use MTN and I'm buying 399 Ghana cedis, I get 214 gigabytes worth of data. Now, what their fear is that, well, you see the numbers. They look appeasing. It will run faster. That is what they are most Ghanaians.
It's possible. That is why I'm saying that the infrastructure to track some of these things. That's why I'm even using the call drop rate as an example.
Yeah.
But the government, through the ministry, should lay out an infrastructure. Real time, you're able to track, to monitor that in a month. This was the number of call drop rates. Please return the credit to them. That is how advanced systems
But does the telecommunication network not have a user's insight, data that you can track?
They have. But the issue is that somebody has to ensure compliance and compliance in terms of all of these. And so the Ministry of Communication is sitting somewhere. The telecommunication has its nose sitting somewhere. And the question is, how do you synchronize this? You need to do data call audit. And in doing data call audit, it will require that monthly someone has to do that. Do you think the government has and the police that? No. But if you work in a system where there should be fairer and fair in terms of dealing with human beings, you would have been said that you will receive some, this so and so time, you did this so and so call, you didn't have good call quality, and then we're returning your credit to you.
Yeah, that sort of accountability should. I think we deserve.
Yeah, so
to know all
I
that
think
as
that
users.
we should have CSOs in those. We should have consumer rights protection. This Kofi Tonto or something like that. Yeah. I think that over the period he died of, the issue has. We should have that consumer audit. That if government is coming out with a policy A, there should be that consumer audit that looks at that policy and then say that, okay, this policy is supposed to ensure that this is done and complied with. And so when people don't actually do that, then government will then come in and say that, look, per hour checks, at this so and so, this were the number of calls that dropped. This was the number of data. Look, sometimes you connect your router. It's supposed to give you blue lights to grant you the higher quality of the internet to run.
Service,
it will give you something not blue, not green, some color. Then at the end of the day, your data is running.
Yeah.
And so, who monitors to ensure that at the end of the day, my life is better off? I mean, remember, governance is not about just willing. Government is about the people. And so when you govern people, the ultimate goal is to see that the lives of those people are better off. And so I super happy with what he has done.
Yeah.
But the real problem is monitoring, compliance to consumer rights, compliance to ensuring that consumers are not cheated, compliance to ensure that the nation itself is a beneficiary.
Right.
Because if I have very good internet backbone in my house, you can have your CCTV camera running 24/7.
Yeah.
It will be near to the benefit of the telcos, because the telcos would have the advantage of ensuring that people patronize their service.
Right.
Let me give you an example. I run my private office. I have one network phone.
Okay.
It's been out 6 months.
It's been out in terms of what?
It's not working. Do you know what they told me? They told me that thieves have come to cut the wire where the internet will travel to my house, to my office. The thieves came and took the metal out, and so you complain, nobody minds you. Now I have to force to buy an additional router in the office for my worker to work, and sometimes we have to buy data on his phone to run the issues that we want to do in the office. And sometimes I ask myself, yay, so is this what we are going to do before we die? No, we all die. But can't we deserve quality of life?
Yeah, we do.
We do. And so somebody, somewhere, must ensure that that is done, because all of us cannot police them. And so for me, this is a welcoming news, because today I was just saying I will not buy till July, so that I'll buy more data.
I don't know if MTN has dashed me data, because for some reason I haven't bought data in a long time.
So I'm waiting July, then I'll go and buy one. That will give me the whole year. Because sometimes it's very frustrating. You don't have money, you want to access the internet, and boom, everything is gone.
Yeah, I agree with you when you say that, you know, the availability of internet equates to the quality of...
No, that's it. I'm telling you. If you look at the baskets, if you look at the
Yeah.
basket of what makes... You see, society thrives in...
But it wasn't like that not too long ago. It was just recently that internet seems to be the fulcrum of our, you know, existence and our activity.
But let me even tell you, now it is not even
people.
going to be about the internet. It is going to be how fast
the internet is.
Because most now businesses will be on real time. For example, as we are doing...
It's live.
It's live.
Yeah.
Now the question now is, someone who will want to see it as fast as possible.
Right.
And even the quality of sound that comes with it.
Yeah.
And so in the next tech space, as we see the robustness of AI in changing, becoming the game changer in life, the state will have to be thinking about not just the bison of the data that comes, but how fast it is. Otherwise, we can't even run any serious business. You can't run any serious infrastructure. And I think that, for example, universities, when you have, let's say, so a pool of data, just some quantum of data that university students are using. Assuming when students are in session, sometimes data is very slow, the internet, very, very slow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so on our campus, for example, sometimes the university will do their bit. But the data service that we get from the telcos is so slow.
Yeah. It's usually when the area is saturated. I don't know what the reason for that is. Like when the area is saturated or densely populated, you realize that the internet is slow, it drags.
Yes,
I don't know what the problem
is. Because everybody is on the system.
Right.
It is a system. And you see, if you don't deploy the right equipment, you will have suffer. Let me give you go to the banks. Have you gone to the bank and they tell you no network?
The system is sometimes it's not even the bank. Sometimes maybe your usual coffee shop or your usual grocery store, and you want to pay, you are standing there, they said the network is slow.
It's serious.
They're using the POS and it's quite a struggle.
That is what I'm saying. And these are some of the governance issues we're talking about.
Yeah.
Any government who runs, or any government who has the opportunity to govern people, will find out what are the citizens complaining about. You go to look. I'm telling you, last 2 weeks I wanted to pay money to somebody. I walked to a particular bank and they said no network. You can only withdraw. You can't pay the money into the account. I said, what? I came back. The following day, the same time. And then I don't know how much of Bank of Ghana regulatory framework will deal with them. Nothing. They go scot-free. You go there, they say 8:30. You enter the bank and they are sitting like that. They say network. Network. And the banks are still using a router. Is it not sickening?
It's a real issue.
And so it's good.
Yeah.
But for me, they should monitor and see how customers are getting value for money for this. Because the telcos may be pretending to be giving out the value of the increase in data. And they also be pretending to servicing their equipment to make sure the data drives value. Or the equipment drives value. And then the end user, which is you and I, customer, how do we lay our complaints in such a way that it is dealt with speedily? These are some of the things that we're talking about. For the value, I am so much happy.
Yeah.
It means that now I can leave my router running for 24 hours.
Well, I just hope, we just hope that it's not just lip service or rhetorics, but we are actually in real time and, you know, in real value, we are enjoying this reduction.
Yeah.
And also, it's not also just as you mentioned, I agree with you 100%, about the fact that it shouldn't only be about the affordability,
yes,
but also the quality of the internet speed,
yes,
you know, the internet quality, and you know, the internet sustainability. And it's not that I'll buy data today and tomorrow
and you see,
I can't find where the data will pass.
Sometimes the NCA finds the telecos, and you don't know where the money goes to. Some few years ago, they were fined heavily, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, there has not been improvement. We still have the same issue happening. And then somebody getting whatever cut he got, we all go to sleep.
But there's actually an enforcement and also service yesterday based on the Honorable Minister's address. He says that the National Communications Authority had been tasked with enforcing the new bundle changes from July 1st and will sanction any operator that fails to comply. I don't know what the sanction includes or what the nature of the sanction will be.
They have a line of whatever issue it is, the sanction that is applied.
Right.
Some of them, they have mutually will agree that, okay, I'm wrong, this is what you have to pay.
Okay.
But that is just one. Ensuring that they do that. That was just a rollover. They'll just change it. They just tweak their system.
Let's see what it continues to say. That the NCA will also begin quarterly billing, integrity assessment to verify fair data billing practices.
That is good. And so, if the NCA is going to do that, first they will have to look at, you are billing me.
Yeah.
How much of my call dropped?
Okay.
I get it.
Okay.
Do I entitled to a refund?
Yeah, integrity assessment.
Yes.
Right.
Are they complying with the excess of the field as they want to do? Bear in mind that as human beings as we are, we have the potential to be corrupt. And so some of these rules are able to govern us, and then they shape the direction for which we want to move.
Right.
And so if the NCA is actually not going to lean on something and leave what they are supposed to do, and they are supposed to follow this. If they were doing this, we won't get to where we are today.
I know, right?
In time past, we have heard the NCA, but when they come, people are struggling. NCA is quite calm. You don't hear them what they do. And even when they do that, the end user doesn't get any benefit. And so it's not about sanctioning and give the money to government. It is about when you are sanctioning them, there should also be an avenue for the end user to get what is supposed to get.
It's due him. Right. It also says that to enhance service quality, Mr. George revealed that the three major telcos had committed to investing approximately $150 million into network upgrades before the end of the year.
That's beautiful.
This is a quote. He stated that I am committed to value-added data offerings that will culminate in price reductions in the medium to long term. But let's be honest, reversing 8 years of mismanagement cannot be done in 4 months. He stated the minister assured the public of ongoing engagement with the Ministries of Finance and Energy to rationalize telecom taxes and electricity tariffs for the sector, which he said would further reduce data costs.
So I think that these are good initiatives that we're looking out for.
Yeah.
We only hope that in the long run, they will continue to have that compliance achieved.
Right.
We'll continue to have the telcos being fair to us. Because there are certain jurisdictions, certain things cannot be entertained.
Yeah.
Look, if you come to Africa, we have been treated in such a way that it is not fair. Individuals are there, you go to some location, you can access data, the whole area, they have just one pool, and
people have to stand under trees and
yes,
climb
and
trees to make calls.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we need to do that, and sometimes to consumers' rights in terms of how to do a network switching from these thieves should be enhanced. There's someone called you the other day. I was just in the room and somebody calls me and said they are doing a regrouping a meeting on our WhatsApp platform, and he was calling to inform me they've sent their group code, and I insulted him. He insulted me.
Those people are just funny. I do not know what motivates them or how they come up with their lies and their schemes. Like someone will call you that you won a car, someone will say you've done this, then they will send another message, my dear, why don't you want the prize? Like, it's just some way.
No,
the security access is porous. Yeah.
Also, individual security is a problem. We don't do the two-step verification.
Yeah.
They hack your phone. Then when they hack, they will copy all the numbers. That's what they do. When someone is in a group, they don't like individual hacking, they like group. Okay. So they will hack the person, then come into the group and copy everybody's detail. And then when they copy it, they will look at the name you used to save it.
Right. And
so they will then do as if they are sending you Momo, then they'll get your real name. That's what they do. And they'll write it down. So when they call you, they'll mention your name. And they'll tell you that, oh, you belong to this particular group. The group is doing a migration. So we want to do A, B, C, D. And they'll send you your code. That day, the guy sent me the code. I saw the code. When I insulted him, he started insulting me. He started insulting me. So I heard someone at the back.
I can only imagine.
Someone at the back and said, Katino. So they are syndicates.
Yeah, yes, of course.
So someone does the calling, someone does the monitoring. The moment you do that, they get your access to your phone.
It's worrying. I think that something should be done in that aspect.
Yes,
but, we are happy about the development when it comes to data.
Yes. We are very happy.
Reduction, more data for same price from July 1st. So from July 1st, we'll be enjoying a lot of data with just some small coins.
Yeah.
To that effect. Now, thank you so much. This is still the newspaper review segment on Pan-African Television. And as you know, you can be a part of the conversation. We are talking about the telcos increased data bundle values following Honorable Sam George's intervention. As the number is displayed on your screen, kindly send your messages via that number, either text message or WhatsApp. Or you can also join us live on Facebook and on YouTube to join in the conversation. Now, I've got some messages coming through from Kwablavi of Pokwase, Benghazi, putting bounty sum of money on the head of Ken Ofori-Atta. That will be our next topic, by the way. And we'll speed up his arrest with that he will be exposed by individuals who see him around in UK. So if special prosecutor is serious to arrest him, he must put big bounty on Ken Ofori-Atta's head. Interesting. This one says, good morning, OHEMAA. We need to be serious as a nation. How can you be making a call and all of a sudden the network freezes, but the providers continue to charge you until the call drops? Yet no one takes them on. When it comes to security, the telcos have failed. You buy a new SIM today, the first person, the calls are interrupting the message reading, so please, this number is not for calls. We don't pick calls on the show, at least not today. We are receiving messages and we'll be reading them as the conversation advances. It says that you buy a new SIM today and the first person that calls you is a fraudster. In fact, the telcos are frauding users in various ways. I think the minister should scrutinize the telcos more. I am John Lamptey from Wager. Thank you, John, for that message. Let me take another one. This one says that, bonjour, chérie, s'il vous plaît, semi-plaît de te voir une fois encore. Hey, today my French is not. It's not smart. Pastors, good morning. OHEMAA, it's very true. We are paying too much for data in Ghana. Government must intervene to save us from exploitation by the telcos. The telecommunication companies who were interested making super profit at the expense of citizens without thinking of quality services for the people. Good morning. It's true. We are paying so much data. Thank you so much for your message. Now let's jump on to our next topic for discussion, which has to do with I say Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta. Yes, he's an honorable. He's a former finance minister of the Republic of Ghana. However, he has an issue with the special prosecutor. He's been founded or cited for some corruption allegations. And his family fight OSP over Interpol Red Notice. Recently, if you saw in the news, the OSP declared him wanted and again a fugitive. And
of justice.
Yes, and Interpol Red Notice has captured him, and his family is saying that when I read the statement, it was quite a lengthy one, about 4 pages or so, and the family indicates several, defenses, and also saying that the OSP is abusing his office, and this is an administrative injustice and also political vendetta. They mentioned, this is but a few of the things they mentioned in the statement. But what do you think, given the interference of his family in an issue that is of public interest, an issue that is between the state and the individual?
Yeah, so that's where I was coming from. If you look at law, order, and state procedural approaches, you will agree with me that anybody, including myself, could be prosecuted by the state if they so have evidence against you. The OSP is not acting as an individual. He is acting as an office. And so even if you take the OSP to court, he is not going to defend himself.
The state will.
It is the state that will defend him. And so for me, if we begin to look at it in a broader perspective, can any family rise up and say they are fighting a state machinery because they think that the state is unduly or unjustifiably prosecuting their kinsman? I think that may be far-fetched. We have a very dicey issue that confronts this particular back and forth that we have with respect to Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta. The issue has to do with the fact that he's not in the jurisdiction. If he was to be in Ghana, would his family fight the OSP as his man?
I doubt that would be the case. Yeah.
If he was to be in Ghana, would the OSP put him in the issue an Interpol alert? No. So the dynamism has been something that we should look at. Another issue has to do with the fact that what has been that communication? Has there been openness? Has there been transparency? Do we as citizens have the
truly African?
Is an office, and that office also has a thought on whatever that you submit to it. And so he has dealings with him via his lawyer. The lawyer says he's not well. You and I, to a large extent, don't have the veracity as to whether, we don't even have the knowledge and the information as to whether he's actually sick or not. What we see in the social media is that a letter emerged from
a doctor's report.
A doctor's report. No, it's not a report, it's a letter.
Oh, from the lawyers?
No, from the doctor, from the
hospital, the Mayo Clinic letter, you mean, yeah?
Yeah, it's a letter.
Yeah, yeah.
You see, a report goes with the letter.
Yeah.
The OSP claimed that he also saw it in the media. And so if someone is not well, it's like you are here, you're going to have an excuse duty. You need to go to the doctor. The doctor has to do a small report and add the excuse duty to it. Was that provided? That's a question we could ask. The OSP also said that he had a discussion with them and he said he will be in town by 2nd June. So if there's going to be even a variation, right?
Yeah.
It could have been known to him in a long while, so that it will be part of his plans. Remember that before they get up, they have procedures for which things are going to be done. So he would need to be in the known, saying that if I'm pursuing this particular case, I will do this in the next time. I'll do, so they have schedules.
Right.
And so if there could be a good fit between the two of them, where they have a discussion, and then they could say that this is how things should go. But unfortunately, we are all put in the dark as to whether that has happened or not. The OSP in one way said, you told me that I should not worry, your name should be taken off, you'll be in Ghana by 2nd June, right? And he said, okay, if by 2nd June you don't come, then I will do ABCD. Just few days to that, we had the information that they said, oh, he could not come. And
that's, pardon me to truncate, but according to the family, I mean for context on the 2nd June issue, according to them, says that the actions of the OSP on 2nd June, which defy all norms and denigrates the stature of the office, denies knowledge of Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta's health condition. The rescheduling of the interview date from 10 February to the 2nd June was founded on health grounds as disclosed by a letter from Mayo Clinic for a surgical procedure, a biopsy scheduled for 21st March 2025. The request for the video recorded interview was based on the update of his surgical procedure that had revealed cancer, for which another surgery had been scheduled for 13th June 2025. Fairness and reasonableness in the exercise of administrative power required that these matters be taken into consideration in deciding whether to accept the option of a VRI as against that a special prosecutor flying to the US to interview Mr. Ofori-Atta, or to wait for Mr. Ofori-Atta to finish his surgery and recovery and return to Ghana for an in-person interview to be conducted in the offices of the OSP. The OSP's action do not therefore reflect standards of fairness and reasonableness required of a special prosecutor by the rules of administrative justice enshrined in the Constitution.
So you see, per this letter, I read the letter, but I didn't take, even what you are saying. If I'm prosecuting you, I have the option to either come to you or you come to me.
Yeah.
Right? No, that is it. But I, as somebody accused, could not say you should do this way.
Yeah, you do not have that.
No, you don't have liberty to do that.
Yeah. But so I, as a prosecutor, have the discretion as to whether I want to come to you or you come to me. Yeah.
But I don't know. Let's you see. I want us to look at it in a bigger picture. Not look at it as Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta. No, let's not look at it that way. Does the prosecutor has the mandate to choose as to how he will do it within the confines of the law? I think they have even stated an example. There were times that even the ABA scandal had to travel and interview John Mahama's brother. Yeah. I heard that. But sometimes I ask myself a question. If there was a precedent, does that mean that that is how things should be done? You see, my challenge is that the gentleman may be sick. The letter is saying that he is denying knowledge of his sickness. Has he been shown him in a video where he saw him sick?
No, that was prior to the 2nd June
That's
deadline.
what I'm asking, yes.
But they say that he's also due to due for another biopsy.
No, I agree with them.
Which
100%.
is scheduled for the 13th of June.
The letter they are relating to that, per the letter is indicative that he was to do one and another surgery.
Yeah.
That is a letter. If you want to convince somebody that you have issue with, you must adduce your evidence. So the letter could have come with a lot of those here.
Yeah.
Because when I listened to the OSP too, he said, it's just a letter. So if I decide that, oh, I'm writing to you, I cannot come because I'm not well, right? Then the letter must come with other evidence to show that this is how it's supposed to be. I'm not supporting what the OSP is. Let's use Professor Emil Confis as an example.
Okay.
He was rushed to the hospital, right? That he was not well. What did the judge say? The judge indicated that anytime it was time for him to
appear before
the judge, he's assumed to be sitting, and he gave him his final warning. Didn't he come?
He came.
Why didn't the Attorney General follow him to the office? So sometimes, jurisdictionally, he may not be here. There could be. If I was him, which I'm not him. If he's insisting of seeing you, and you also can avail yourself, maybe we could even look at the cost implication.
Yeah.
If the person is ready to come, the state should bear his costs and bring him.
But this is an issue that is limited to the Ghanaian jurisdiction.
That is what I'm saying. That
citing the Airbus example, for instance, it was an issue that involved international bodies.
But that's what they said, yes.
But this issue, does it involve international?
No.
You were the finance minister
of Ghana. That is what I'm saying.
So you need to be interrogated and questioned in Ghana.
Yes.
It's a matter of jurisdiction.
That is what I'm saying. That I decide not to.
So there's not even an option or even thinking of the OSP traveling to the US or wherever it is.
To go. So for me, my challenge is that, you see, when we make institutions weak, it will come to bite all of us. We have the minds of people who perhaps, for want of a better word, are corrupt. And so when they find lapses in the system, they'll always use those means to exert their power. So for me, the OSP should make sure he doesn't abuse the fundamental human right of a former finance minister, but he should also take legitimate steps. And for the family coming in, that's where I have issues.
But do you think that the OSP, there's a misstep in his exercise of power in terms of his office and the procedural, propriety?
The procedure is that he said, I want to have you. I want to interrogate you. They say he hasn't been charged. If you have not...
So on what grounds is he being interrogated?
No, so he has issues he's investigated, and by law you are permitted to do that.
Right.
The law mandates, that is why you see all other agents like AGYEKUM and others. If there is a suspicion of corruption-related issue, they will arrest you. Bring you on board, talk to you. After speaking with you, if they think that their suspicions are right, then they will charge you before court. And that is when the court system will not take over the matter, and then they will go to court to ensure everything is done. So the first thing is for you to appear.
Yeah.
So it is not like something that is in absurdity, where you would say someone has been charged. Because if you begin to apportion in such a way that some people are strong, look, I have had my rights trampled upon, and I keep saying it. The day will come. In fact, to understand that I was humanely sick, and people see you and they smile, I decided I was going to follow the procedure. I could have taken the law into my own hands. I decided I was going to follow the procedure. So, if you have procedure that how things should be done, we should not be seen as people in the country to denigrate that procedure. Because I am telling you, every human being has a tendency to be corrupt. Every human being. And so if there are no guidance principles where certain things are done, and at a particular point in time, you are in charge here. If you were not in charge, this process will not take place. So at every point in time, we will have people who are in charge. And these people must ensure compliance. And
so you believe that due process is in motion, giving the OSP?
If he's wrong, they still can go to court. You know, they even said he labeling him as a fugitive of justice. They went to court. I hope you know that it is even in the High Court. Yeah. You can still go. The law court will determine as to whether the process he has done or not. But now that family is at, let's look at someone has been, they have let's assume that there is an armed robber, and he has been caught and all that, and his family come and say he's not an armed robber. Will the state be able to do the prosecution? So, for me, let's have cool heads prevail. Let's all come to the table. If they said he needs him physically present, how do we do it in such a way that he is physically present? If the person says he's not coming. And so, in terms of the Interpol will also have some jurisdictional basis to bring him back. Is that not it?
Yeah.
They will look at the charge sheet. They look at all the evidences that are provided by him. There are certain things you will not see. It is not just like putting somebody's name on the internet and say you are wanted. If they are arresting you, they will arrest you based on information provided to them.
Absolutely. They can't just,
arrest
you. Yeah.
And so if they are going to arrest him, they have a database where you are flagged. And the moment you are flagged, it means that they will make sure that they take steps to look at, okay, he's wanted A for this, B for this, C for this. And these are evidence that the state adduced in looking for him. And therefore, A checked, B checked, C checked, and all of this. And so your list is approved. And you see that they are quick to do those things.
Yeah, right. Very, very interesting. But I'm very much interested also in the allegations that the family level against the OSP, citing that his actions fit the definition of a vendetta. And they said the missteps of the OSP in handling King Ofori-Atta's case include 1, the use of office for vendetta and political persecution.
Why were they fighting?
2, well, yeah, that's a legitimate question. 2, deliberate suppression of evidence. What evidence?
Which is?
Yeah, to find out. A denial of institutional flexibility to permit compliance with orders. Disregard of, you want to come in?
Yeah, so you see, this is where flexibility. So who determines the flexibility?
The OSP, because based on his discretion.
Based on his discretion. So will you be criminalizing someone for his discretion?
No. Discretionary powers are actually...
yes, within the confines of the person's dictates.
Yes, within the confines of the law.
If the person has discretionary power and he says, I'm not going to waive that. So what do you do? So I'm thinking that we are all human beings. And I still believe in that negotiation.
Yeah.
How can Mr. Ofori-Atta pick a phone call? Because I think he's okay. Because I also saw evidence of pictures of him in a bar. I'm telling you, I saw pictures somewhere in a bar. He's seated, and some people took pictures of him. And
is it in a bar or in a fancy restaurant?
Oh,
some say fancy restaurant, some say bar.
He's sitting like this. It's a bar. He's sitting like this.
Okay.
Right. But the question is, we are human beings. He has worked with him before. Because he was in power and he was appointed. So can he just pick a phone call and call, my brother, look, let's cut the gist. I have this issue. Can you perhaps, it's a backdoor thing. Can you perhaps look at it from this angle? Right? And then can we have it done this way? So if you keep me in the dark and you write a letter and you are not before me, do you know how the person would feel stupid? Because he has the power to procure the agenda of the state. And everything is time bound. I hope we know that. And people keep saying that he should be tried in absentia. He has not even been, charged. These are just introductory processes for who did it. So I think that the OSP and Mr. Koyefa, they should talk. It's not the family, because you see, even if the family goes to court, they'll lose. In terms
but
of
on
law,
what grounds will the family go to court?
That is, on what grounds is the family circulating this?
What do they have the locus?
They don't.
Do they have the locus to go to court in the first place? They don't.
They don't.
So I don't know. So what will be the gravity of this statement that they have released? Then what will be the purpose of the statement?
This is what we call the public court, the opinion of the public court.
Right.
So that's all they are all courting. People in organized systems will trust the OSP, even if there is an evidence that he is hiding information. That could be proven in the court. Oh, my lord, I gave him, we sent a letter dated A, B, C, and that's what I do. Me, when I send letter, I always make sure I have a receipt stamp. That's how I deal with people. So we sent him a letter dated this, that. His office receipt shows this, that. And so if he tells the public that he is not aware of this, that, that is a dent in on his credibility. And then the court will then come in and say, okay, if you have received this and you went ahead to do this, then you don't have a case. You get it? So for me, the public opinion is there. They're there for political reasoning. Someone will come and I'm on a particular page, they will just bundle this and they put there and I read. And I like reading. I will just read and then begin to ask questions. Even before I type something, I double check it in my brain 3 times. That is how I live my life. And so they pick the information, they post it and they say, the OSP is, but the OSP is not on that platform. Yeah. And so they court the public opinion, but the matter will be dealt in the court. And so for me, they must talk. He will not talk with his lawyers. Because you see, I think there is a mistrust between he himself, Mr. Ofori-Atta, and the lawyers.
Oh, how so? His own lawyers?
No, I'm talking about the OSP having a mistrust with the lawyers of Mr.
Ofori-Atta. Right.
Because if the lawyers could do good negotiation, there is a way they could come on that they will be able to mediate. It's not everything that goes to court. There are certain times mediation helps a lot. So if they're able to mediate properly, and even if there was similarly,
I mean, there are some issues that I think that we overburden the court with. There are issues that
can be settled
ADR
intervention, yes.
We choose to take it to court.
So even with this, even though it's a criminal matter, if they were able to negotiate properly with the OSP without coming to the media and throwing tantrums. If you're in the media and you're throwing tantrums, personally, you are attacking his office. His office and his person.
Yeah.
And it's a human beings that said that when they feel aggrieved, the way they will handle you is just like when you annoy a policeman. He will bundle you and throw you out when he could put you gentle. So that's what they're doing.
But when you feel aggrieved, according to the Constitution, you are enjoined by Article 33 to go to the High Court.
You seek relief.
There's habeas corpus, there's this, there's that. All those options are there. So why don't they employ in either of these options?
No, they can't, because before they will show that, one, the gentleman has to be available. His lawyers still pursue that, and then they send all those matters to the High Court. But the fact still remains that he will ask also questions that I have not even had the privilege to meet you.
But does the OSP not have that option of perhaps applying for a habeas corpus, which essentially means that they should bring the body, like bring the person by...
No, but that's why you can't do that jurisdictionally. It is supposed to be a member state in terms of the Interpol processes that can bring him back.
Yeah, but he's not within the jurisdiction,
he's
so
not
that may not apply.
That will not apply.
Right.
And so for me, this matter will be lingering. They will still be fighting. They will all buy in time. That's what they're doing. They're buying time. And as they continue to buy time, it will kind of put in the public mind that this man indeed is corrupt. And that is what they are doing. Because at the end of the day, the family is coming in to take that thing away from the minds of people. A discerning reader will ask, if you are a family and you think that your brother, were you part of the processes when he was working? Were you aware of the things you were doing? No, do you get it?
Yeah.
Nobody is talking about the substantive matter. But the OSP, even if he is aggrieved or he's angry, he's still going to lean on the substantive matter. Oh, he's being investigated on A, B, C, D. Just yesterday night, you heard what happened with the SML. You heard that the OSP and
the IGP,
and the police, they have gone to ransack the place. And it is part of the thing he kept mentioning. You understand? So before he even came, people who are hitherto associated with him will be destroyed. Because SML like this, they are almost going on in the trenches now. And according to whatever they are talking about, he set up SML. Like he provided the contract, did whatever on all those things. And so an organization, I saw their video some time ago. I think they were just talking about the role they have played in enhancing revenue generation to get more money for the state. That was just last month or 3 weeks ago. And today their office have been raided.
Right.
And so for me, we are all jeopardizing what we are doing in the public. Forgetting that at the end of the day, someone will be hurt. If Mr. Ofori-Atta is not hurt himself, the state will end up injuring other companies. That may not be also be healthy for all of us.
All of us.
And so I pray to God that maybe he should get well, come fast. He cannot just go there and they would say you are not going home. They will definitely be released. And then the case will start. If the state has issues against him, he will be prosecuted. If the state has nothing against him, he goes home freely. And I think everything will be good for all of us. So that the media banter, the family has said this, the OSC has said this, it will cease. And then the state will govern properly.
Right, thank you very much, Dr. Jamal. This has been a one-on-one conversation with Dr. Jamal, very insightful here on the show. This is still the newspaper review segment on Pan-African Television. And as to time, I think we've done well with time, in as much as it was just one guest. Dr. Jamal has done justice and due diligence to all our topics. We have exhausted them. We couldn't do the 8% because of time, but let me read a few messages and then we call it a wrap. Stephen Peng Wah, he is an a follower of Pan-African Television. He's part of the movement, and we appreciate you always for bringing in your contributions and making us aware that you're with us on this journey. He says, OHEMAA, I'm proud of your sole panelist. As for Ken Ofori-Atta must be extradited to Ghana, dead or alive, to face the consequences. Wow. To face the consequences of his thievery and possibly with accomplices. After all, the law is the law. So the law states. Stephen Peng. Well, thank you so much for your message, Stephen. Let me do a few more. This one says, Ken Ofori-Atta's family should shut up and give us a break. When they were enjoying the proxies from the loot and corruption of their son, they were silent. Moreover, they are not better than innocent Ghanaians whose lives and businesses got destroyed by the reckless decisions of corruption of Ken Ofori-Atta. In fact, the apple, who is Ken Ofori-Atta, does not fall far from the tree, which is a family. Wow. They are all birds of the same feathers, hence they flock together. John Lamte Wager. Thank you, John, for your message. Ken Williams comes through again with another submission. Says, good day, Pan-African TV. Health workers are right to fight for better conditions, but holding the nation hostage due to funny demands like height allowance, funeral grants, travel allowance, and 13th month salary is capricious and unacceptable. Thank you, Ken Williams, for your message. Let me take this one. Good morning, PATV. OSP should prove to us the documents that he sent to Ken Ofori-Atta back to Ghana. Okay. Dominic says, good morning, Pan-African TV. In fact, since 1992 till date, all those who were persecuted, thus, does it mean that they didn't have families? Very interesting question. So that means everybody who is persecuted also has a family to speak for them. So essentially, he is saying that Ken Ofori-Atta's family should give Ghanaians a break. The mountain will rather, I said, if Mohammed doesn't go to the mountain will rather go to Mohammed. And I see your messages coming in, but unfortunately, we are hard pressed with time and we'll have to cut it off here. But let me say a big thank you to Dr. Jamal Mohammed for joining us and being that sole panelist that kept the show going. Thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you very much.
We really do appreciate you. And to you for always choosing us, thank you so much for your participation and for choosing us to bring you insights, education, and also entertainment. We serve you with some feel-good music. I am OHEMAA AGYEKUM. The show continues tomorrow. As always, see you. Goodbye.
Truly African.
Ha! Sasa odiya some look faso. Papa, me again. Yes, we are late. Me quite remember who hear me. Menti me sent my friend doctor when I'm crossing over. See what we swear. She has malaria. Malaria. Oh, what they say with the router? Me copy the absence here. A draw in a friend router mixer. You come malaria draw and running router. So
Cat trap and the draw crew abaso body acid. Wabo router mixture abaso. Router natural products and one router mixture. Yeah, you could see a treat. Router tonic and the router life for a who a finish like the bunny, a fin per diem. NASA support immune system. Router dear, Obiasia, FDA, I did drinking crap to your two.
Queen cannot decide for us. And your politics. And your this and your PP. So I enter so. Say the Yanshan is out. Maybe so what the Yamako baby I could talk. Aha. So now things are moving gradually.
Near Madia yet. Okay. Be anywhere yet, says the way. Yes, it's getting home. Almost a yatin near my today, Ataso. Yes, it's a more cranny Ataso. Anna Damanwa. And no cry, say, more 10 years, and Yama motivation. Bet, Namotis, the full way, and then 1 liter, 1 Ghana city. Obi na Parliament is a 1 city. 1 city, yes, 1 city, 1 city, 20 years. 18 in the market, your bomb body, I would mean talk. I'm going to be with me talk. Milo, I could find the person, I'm in 50 cities, and then Milo 70 Ghana. It's the only artist. I couldn't remember says, a bet now what is. Well, I know we encourage you to know. And now, Madame Fobacco will be a shop, what do you be at Nami? Wakoyi Nisika 5,000 Dakota bet, simply because was the attic taxes. 18 and 5,000 or test with the yen I won't go for any parents. M.Y. One would see ideas, one would see the papa so. No more yen, no more night, Betty, I at a bet. Yes, I know your man almost saying.
Niasika, your mamma, Niasika, your craft for me, Niasika, me.
Fair, Lord Fair, a robot tobacco is 700 Yatibi so. Yanti is on 50, I did my 14.5. And now time on the day I in 13.5. Says I consider because of my Bibia boy.
Hey, Mama.
Oh, me, that's all.
Hey, Mama.
Master.
Oh,
Master.
This is Swift Africa.
Truly African.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The Ministry of Health brings to the attention of the general public the ongoing strike action undertaken by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, born out of the ongoing discussions on the new conditions of service signed in May 2024 and originally scheduled for implementation in July 2024. Upon assuming office, we have, on behalf of government, engaged several times with the GNRMA to explore the best possible avenue to approve and implement the new conditions of service. While expressing our deep regret over the current impasse leading to the strike and the suffering patients enduring, the ministry states emphatically that government appreciates the invaluable contributions of Ghanaian nurses and midwives to the development of the health sector. Government remains committed to the needed engagement that will lead to the approval and implementation of the new conditions of service for nurses and midwives. Accordingly, government has directed the Ministry of Finance and the Fair Wages and Salary Commission to, as a matter of urgency, lead the development of a roadmap to ensure a smooth implementation of the process. We engage the leadership of all Nurses and Midwives Association within the health sector on 30th May 2025 to address their challenges and discuss the subsequent roadmap leading to the implementation of the new conditions of service. Fortunately, the other associations supported my intervention, with the exception of the GRNMA, which declined and proceeded to declare the strike on the 2nd of June 2025, despite the NLC caution. The National Labour Commission on Thursday, 5th June 2025, summoned all stakeholders to an emergency meeting to address the matter. However, the GRNMA failed to attend the meeting. Consequently, the NLC was compelled to take legal steps to declare the strike illegal and called on the GRNMA to immediately call it off in line with law. Yesterday, Monday, 9th June 2025, we invited the Fair Wages and Salary Commission to engage the GRMA, the Ministry of Finance, and the Ministry of Health to deliberate on roadmap for the successful implementation of the new conditions of service. At the meeting, the Fair Wages and Salary Commission once again, in accordance with law, directed the GRNMA to call off the strike to allow negotiations to continue. Government wishes to stress its readiness to further engage with a view to implementing the conditions of service in a manner that does not dislocate the national budget. We wish to draw attention to the fact that the conditions of service under reference are not captured in the 2025 budget and will completely throw the economy off gear if implemented immediately in the manner it currently exists. We are mindful of the serious economic consequences of unbudgeted expenditure and want to avoid the economic slippages that led to the hardship in the recent past. Government commits to continue to engage with the nurses in order to achieve a mutually acceptable outcome in the interest of the public. While working around the clock to resolve the impasse, the Ministry of Health has taken the following steps to mitigate the suffering of Ghanaian patients unduly affected by the strike. The ministry will, in the next few minutes, publish a comprehensive list of facilities to complement facilities where nursing services are lacking and where patients can seek health care. Given the urgency of the situation and suffering of the patients, government appeals to public-spirited retired nurses and midwives to volunteer their services for a brief period pending the resolution of the impasse. We further express our deep appreciation to practicing nurses who have opted to remain at post to help suffering patients and urge others to show similar fellow feeling and assist our ailing compatriots even as efforts are made to address their concerns. In conclusion, government reiterates its commitment to dialogue with the GRMA with a view to resolving this impasse for full nursing services to be restored. Thank you for the opportunity.
We in minority don't believe that the nurses are at any fault. It is their right. They are seeking their right. I would want to know any of you who think this just is not justified in Appendix A of their CBA. Is it the issue of rural incentive allowance that was agreed, that is meant for nurses and midwives in the rural areas so that we can have nurses and midwives in the rural area. Which of them would you say is not legitimate? Is it the issue of fuel allowances, which has been historical since 60s for these people? Is it the issue of uniform allowance, which has been there since the 1960s? It couldn't have been changed in any republic, and it cannot be changed under a previous government. It cannot be changed now. We are here to plead with the nurses to understand that even if governments see the need to engage them, they should go with the good faith with Ghanaians at heart. Because getting all the money without the lives that we have lost brings no joy to anyone. So as minority, we are mindful of the fact that we are not stoking it up and asking them to prolong the strike. We are only asking them to be merciful as far as the tables are concerned, that when they go to sit, they must be merciful to see the need to be reasonable. Reasonability means you appeal to their conscience and say, if you are asking for 8 things, we cannot. You know what? In the budget, we'll do 3. Maybe the next budget will do 2. Let government change their posturing towards these people and let them not use the law and let them not frighten them. We have clinics closed. People are dying. And we want to share with you why we should talk about this. And at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, I beg leave of you and with your permission.
Honorable Afriye, kindly resume your seat.
Sit up and down. Yeah, I would say, you don't understand what you're talking about.
Honorable Habib, I intend not to open any debate on this issue. Yes, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I think that we can take an adjournment to tomorrow, during which those statements that you have admitted can be made. There's no difference between today and tomorrow, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honorable members. Motion move for adjournment. Any seconder?
Mr. Speaker, I want to draw your attention to
Honorable
order 3
Habib.
of our standing orders.
Honorable Habib, resume your seat.
Speaker,
motion
I
move
rise
for
to second the
adjournment.
motion.
Any seconder?
Good evening and a warm welcome to the program. This is Hot News, and I want to apologize for the late start of the program. It's all part, sometimes it happens. My name is David Otokuno-Ato. I want to thank you for staying for the start of this program. Tonight, we're going straight into action. We'll be looking at issues surrounding the strike action by the Ghana Registered Nurses Association, Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. We'll also look at how things panned out in Parliament. Earlier on in the day before Parliament adjourned, there were near fisticuffs in Parliament concerning this actual strike. We'll look into that. We'll also look into issues surrounding the introduction or other seat as the imposition of the 1 Ghana cedi levy on the energy sector. These are issues tabled for discussion. I'm taking a quick turn. When I come back, I will introduce my guests and then we start discussion. Please stay. Welcome back to the program. This is Hot News, and we're live from our studios here at Abelenkwe. We're live also across some 46 African countries via satellite and other digital platforms. Join us on Facebook at Pan African Television, on all socials at Pan African TV. Connect with me personally on Facebook at Atos Watch with the issues. We would like to hear from you on the WhatsApp line that will shortly be displayed on your screens. Tonight I'm in discussion with the Member of Parliament for the Sagnarigo constituency in the Northern region. Also doubles as a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament. Issues around the e-levy. We'll talk about that pretty shortly. Honorable, thank you so much for making time.
I'm grateful. It's a pleasure to always...
And thank you for me bothering you. I know I've been chasing you all over the place.
No problem. No problem.
How is the constituency?
Small. We are doing well. Yes. I just returned from the constituency that was yesterday.
Right.
We went to do a final engagement with our BEC candidates.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so after that I had to return to Parliament once again.
Right.
So,
and the rainstorm the last time you were here
Yes,
how are you
we didn't
recovering
get
from that?
Support from NADMO yet, but we've actually done our best to make sure that we sustain the livelihoods of those affected, because the idea was that we wanted to get enough support from government to return them back to their befitting status. But I'm sure because of they are still adjusting in terms of releases of budgets to NADMO.
Right.
So we were told that it will come later. So what we are actually doing currently through the assembly and myself is that we are providing them with relief items that will at least put food onto the table,
right,
for them to have some improved conditions.
Right.
That's what we are doing. So
there will be more rains, I believe.
Since I spoke, there have been 2 serious rains that has destroyed a lot of schools in my constituency. In fact, I've bought more than, let's say, 20 packets of zinc just to roof back some of the schools, because at the end of the day, we still have those dilapidated structures serving as schools, right, with prayer that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama will help in terms of giving more improved infrastructure for our schools. But for the meantime, the existing infrastructure, though not adequate and not strong, we're still managing with those ones. And for that matter, any time that there is a severe rain, we need to call back home to know where we are getting those difficulties. And so far, so good, though it's a strain on your finances. But at the end of the day, we are there to save. And any effort that we should do to make sure that our people get good life, that's what we'll do.
Inshallah, we know things will happen better. Now, let's go straight to Parliament. You are coming, I believe you are coming straight from Parliament.
Yes.
You people, I call you guys, haven't learned any lessons. And I'm wondering why, you know, what's been happening in Parliament, near fiscals. It's just over the strike action by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association.
Yes.
What is the normal procedure? What the member did, does it call for that?
In fact, I think that I want to just be very blunt with you to say that the speakership and the deputies have been so lenient with the minority over the period. We know that opposition parties are those that host parliament, because if it is a ruling party that hosts parliament, it means that there won't be any proper oversight responsibility exerted on the executive. For that matter, any effort or any attempt that is geared towards improving parliament's oversight responsibility, I'm all for it.
Right.
However, the minority have taken that leeway of granting them opportunity to critique government to being abuse of those discretions. Why do I say so? If you look at Order 93, it gives members of parliament the opportunity to make statements,
right,
to ask questions. And today we have had several questions. Some questions were referred to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and others came to the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. However, there was one particular statement. For a statement to be made, you must first of all write to the clerk, and the clerk refers to the speaker, and the speaker will determine in Order 93(2) whether to admit
the statement or not. Right.
So if the statement is not admitted, you cannot raise the matter on the floor of Parliament. Then we were doing business of the House. At the tail end of the House, before we adjourned, the ranking member on the Health Committee brought a statement to the Speaker. When I refer to the Speaker, I'm referring to the First Deputy Speaker of Parliament.
Right.
And the Speaker told him that the time that you are bringing it, he cannot have the time to go through, to use that discretion to know whether he should admit it or not. And this is not, it's not like we are rising. It's just an adjournment.
Till tomorrow.
Till tomorrow. Then the minority raised issues that the Speaker is trying to deny them the opportunity. That was just the discussion. All of a sudden, the Speaker said, without any further issues outside this statement, if there is no other issue that should be discussed on the floor, then he wants indication from the leadership of Parliament whether we should adjourn or not. Then the majority leader gave the indication that without any other government business, the House should be adjourned to tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the forenoon. Minority refused to second, and it was seconded by the chief whip of the majority. Then the minority, once the House is adjourned, we now give way for the Speaker to move. Right. When the Speaker was about leaving the chamber, then the MP for Tolom, Honorable Habib, that almost destroyed the chairs he was sitting on. And the House of Parliament, every property is a property of Parliament and the state. Right. So the Marshal of Parliament came to the rescue of those furniture. So they thought the Marshal was coming to whisk him away, the Honorable Member of Parliament. And that was not the intention.
But because maybe perhaps the Speaker had called on the Marshal to walk him out.
Of course. Because if you destroy public property, I don't know if you remember, at the Appointments Committee, a similar incident happened when some members of Parliament were almost destroying the table. And some...
destroyed, not almost.
Destroyed. Yes. And what was the punishment? The Speaker suspended them for some almost a week or so. Right. And then they had to go and peg themselves of those acts. And the Speaker reconsidered the decision. So we've been given an opportunity before to make sure that we do things that will indicate that we are members of Parliament. We must be decorous and we must be candid and very modest in the way the public should see us. We shouldn't do anything that is unbecoming of a member of Parliament.
But the issues that he was raising, I was thinking that, is it that sometimes you can't do away with the proceedings in Parliament? Look at the urgency of the issues that are supposed to be raised.
Number one, there was a health committee meeting.
He raised issues about public interest in the motion he was about to move.
Those ones, you don't need a statement. You are a member of Parliament. You can bring it through your leadership on the floor of Parliament for discussion. Right. In fact, the presiding speaker asserted that Honorable Afenyo has always brought up issues of public interest without through a statement. But when you bring it in the form of a statement, it comes directly under Order 93.
Okay.
That is the procedure. And we are not against what he was coming to do. But if we don't set the standard right, what it simply means is that at any time, a member can discuss something as urgent and will bring a statement.
Okay.
So we didn't want to create that room for abuse. And tomorrow, that statement can be admitted and taken.
So there was no agency?
There was no agency. And I'm saying that, number one, there was a health committee meeting this morning where various issues with stakeholders. This was not just a health committee meeting. Health committee meeting with agencies under the health sector.
Right.
You are ranking on the committee. All these issues that you wanted to raise could have been raised at the health committee meeting. In fact, there was a press briefing.
I think he briefed
personally
the media. Yes.
Briefed the media on the content of the statement. So if not politics, what better platform do you get at the committee level? And every committee sitting of Parliament is just like the House. Committee sittings are an extension of the plenary. So if you have that opportunity to make your issues known to the agencies under the ministry, you have another opportunity to the media, the fourth estate of the realm. You spoke to the listenership and the viewership of several millions of Ghanaians. What was the essence of bringing it to the floor of Parliament? And look at the timing.
I'm not cutting you, but I want viewers to appreciate what we're talking about. Let's go and watch that video where the ranking member on health, nearly caused chaos in Parliament. Let's have a feel of that video.
We have clinics closed. People are dying. And we want to share with you why we should talk about this. And at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, I beg leave of you and with your permission.
Honorable Afriye, kindly resume your seat.
Sit Albert down. Yeah, I would sound horrible. You don't understand what you're talking about, Bessie.
Honorable Habib, I intend not to open any debate on this issue. Yes, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I think that we can take an adjournment to tomorrow. during which those statements that you have admitted can be made. There's no difference between today and tomorrow, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honorable members. Motion move for adjournment. Any seconder?
Mr. Speaker, I want to draw your attention to
Honorable
Order 3
Habib.
of our standing orders.
Honorable Habib, resume your seat.
Speaker,
motion
I
move
rise
for
to second the
adjournment.
motion.
Any seconder?
I make this statement.
Honorable Afriye, if you don't take time, I will send you out of the house.
I'm not worried about that.
Why are you taking liberty
I'm not
for
worried
nonsense?
about that. It's an issue of urgent public importance. I can leave.
In doing so,
I can leave.
make one statement.
I can leave. I can leave. I am ready to leave. I am ready to leave.
What do you mean by in doing so, make one statement?
I am ready to leave. You can send me out. I'm ready to leave. That's what it is. Yes. I'm ready to leave. That's a big deal.
Honourable members.
Mr. Speaker, we rise to make this statement on an issue of immediate and far-reaching concerns to our country. The ongoing national strike action declared by the
You are
Ghana
hereby
Registered
directed
Nurses and
to
Midwifery
walk Afriye out of the house.
To explain to the public the extreme partisan nature of the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament. He's been extremely partisan this evening, disregarding the provisions of the standing orders of this House. This House has orders, and the order in 93.1 allows for issue of urgent public importance for statements to be admitted. Minority pleaded for him to exercise the highest form of discretion. But the first Deputy Speaker failed. We in minority don't believe that the nurses are at any fault. It is their right. They are seeking their right. I would want to know any of you who think this just is not justified in Appendix A of their CBA. Is it the issue of rural incentive allowance that was agreed, that is meant for nurses and midwives in the rural areas, so that we can have nurses and midwives in the rural area? Which of them would you say is not legitimate? Is it the issue of...
All right, so that was the ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament. And then, is it the Honorable Habib?
Yes.
The MP for Tolon, really causing chaos in Parliament. And I want to ask you, so what happens next? So, is it that Parliament itself has not taken notice of the strike action by the nurses?
The issue has nothing to do with whether Parliament has taken notice of it or not. The issue is about procedure. This is not like a market. It's a house that is governed by rules and regulations and best practices. These are leaders of respective communities and constituencies. So any action and conduct you must exhibit there, you should know that hundreds of thousands of people are watching you at that particular point in time. The disrespect towards the speakership for parochial and political interests must come to an end. The standing orders of the House is clear. When a speaker is speaking, you must listen to him in silence. In fact, when the speaker is even on the floor, you are not even supposed to stand.
Okay.
But today you saw what happened. Blazing disregard of the orders of the speaker. So that is what I want us to look at the issue from. Now, the issue of whether the strike is of utmost importance to members of Parliament or not, it is. Because we know that outpatient departments of major hospitals are shut down.
In fact, people are dying.
Yesterday, a branch women organizer in my constituency, Damankon Yele, was referred to a hospital in Tamale. When the person got there, the initial excuse was that there was no bed. And later they said, oh, because of the strike, they returned my women organizer back home. And we lost her in an hour's time.
Oh.
AGYEKUM. So this is not an issue that we are insensitive to. Health is an essential commodity that is offered to every country. In fact, health, education, and security are all essential services. However, a mistake in the health sector results in death, unlike education, where you can say that when teachers are on strike, students can get other avenues of learning. Health is not like that. It doesn't have that alternatives. The alternative for lack of health means death. So for me, it is not about whether we take it serious or not. It's about the procedure. And I am sure that they have been offered several opportunities to have heard their opinion. The health committee met this morning, like I indicated, and all these concerns could have been channeled there. In fact, the House started today at 2 p.m. We could have brought the issue if it was of public interest.
Is it not public interest?
No, I'm saying that based on the narrative from the minority, saying that it is an interest of urgent matter. And I'm saying that the House started at 2 p.m. Why didn't they bring that statement? Why did he run to the media before coming to the plenary? Why did he wait for us to exhaust all admitted statements for the day? And he now stringing it as a surprise to everybody in the House. That is why I'm saying that he wanted to capture headlines like he is doing now. The sensation. He was just trying to be emotional, to play on the emotional keyboards of people for political score. Nothing more than that. Because we all know, I don't know whether we can just delve into the health, the strike matter, because like I indicated, it's an essential service. And every effort, I want to use this platform to urge every party, be it the National Labour Commission, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, the striking nurses and midwives, and the government of Ghana. We must know that our lack of health attention to people results in death. And no amount of conditions of service can restore the life of a person. This is a duty on the state you have taken. The price and sacrifices you have taken simply means that you want to save lives. And no amount of money government gives you can resurrect the lost lives. Since the strike action started, all those that have died, when we return to work, how do we do to bring them back? That is why we are called essential service.
Right.
The impact is there on livelihoods of people. And let me say that you cannot be on strike whilst negotiation is still ongoing. Where have you seen that? On one breath, you are open for negotiations and engagement with stakeholders like government, Labour Commission, and the Fair Wages and Salaries, and yet you don't want to suspend strike. That is my only concern. That let's use this opportunity to explain to Ghanaians that the issues surrounding or the purpose of this strike action is not the doing of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama for MPP to take advantage of. In fact, the collective agreement between the Registered Nurses and Midwives Association and that of Government of Ghana was in May 2024. That was when the agreement was signed. Why didn't they execute the implementation? Or why didn't they implement it? Because, one, there was an injunction placed on that agreement by civil servants. Some Ghanaian servants took the issue to court. So there was an injunction on the implementation. From May up till January, before a resolution was given or a roadmap was given towards its implementation. By that time, the March 2025 budget was already in motion. So this is like a collective baggage you have inherited as a government. Yes, government is a continuum. All this negotiation that was done with the government, Ministry of Health and those agencies in 2024 was not the NDC government or under His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. So this is an inherited decision of which we know that government is a continuum. I will not sit here and say that we shouldn't have listened to it. But the time the resolution came, the plan for 2025 budget was already in motion.
And could that have been factored in?
What if you factor it in? You need to look at the fiscal space. Since we assume office, government has done a lot of austerity measures since the day one of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, because of lack of fiscal space. You've seen that we've reduced the number of ministers. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama appealed to workers of this country for a 10% upward in salaries this year. I don't know if you followed. That tells you that things are not as rosy as we see it. So the ministry through the government through the ministry is not against implementing the collective agreement. What they are trying to say is that there is no fiscal space for this year. Let's defer its implementation to 2026. And David, this is not a situation that concerns salaries. Oftentimes, when nurses and teachers and other public servants are on strike, it has to do with conditions of service. People are not paid and all those things. These are like enhanced perks. Fuel allowance, rural allowances, and those allowances. I'm not saying it is not important, but you are paid as we speak. You are still paid even though you are on strike. For what work done? That is a question I want the striking nurses and midwives to know. That they must look at the broader impact it has on livelihoods and consumers. They must look at its impact on our health systems.
Is there no way government can cut corners?
So today,
because I know normally government does those, those rounds.
So today, I've seen that government has directed the Ministry of Finance and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to engage further towards a resolution, but mindful of the national economy. Any attempt to implement an expenditure that was not captured in the 2025 budget simply means you are throwing the budget off gear. This is like a model that has several elements. Once one element changes, it throws the entire model out of gear. So the Ministry of Finance is aware of the difficulties we have as a country. We are budgeting to spend close to 297 billion Ghana cedis already. How much more can we accommodate? Even if you are able to accumulate parts, what will be its implications on other sectors of Ghanaian workers? And you know, some of these things, it's like a trigger effect. Once this goes, you see multiple reactions from other labor unions. That's always how it is. It's like a competitive market. Every price or every information about wages are known. So once this one succeeds, you see other ones coming, of which you had not budgeted for it. So for me, I know that government is not sleeping on this matter. If you have observed, National Labour Commission secured an injunction for them to call off the strike. Every citizen must be a law-abiding citizen. The constitution of this country and other relevant statutes was formulated to regulate conduct of people. I don't want to feel that the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association is not a law-abiding entity. It is. And we know what implications it brings when an entity or a person violates an order of court.
But don't you think if you take the legal path, you're rather strengthening or boldening?
No, that is not the case. I am saying that government is already engaged. In fact, on May 9th, on June 9th, they were supposed to meet. They met, it ended inconclusive. So it is not like efforts are not even being made towards getting a resolution or a proper roadmap. But I'm saying that in as much as these resolutions are ongoing, you cannot still go on with your strike action. If the government was very dismissive from onset, that it is not relevant, we will not accept those conditions of service that was done by the previous administration. The government has not said something like that. In fact, the government is even open. The Ministry of Health has already engaged stakeholders. The concern here is the duration of the roadmap for the implementation. Government thinks we should push it to 2026 to 2028. Implementation of 2 full years. Whilst the registered nurses and midwives are saying that it must be done now. So that's just a concern. Not on the relevance of the conditions of service. So please, my appeal to you once again is that let's respect the orders of the court. However undesirable it is to your cause, the law must be respected.
Right.
And then Ministry of Finance too, let's find a middle way of resolving this, because the consequence of this action is that.
What would be the way forward? Already, as you indicated, there are, flipper, I will call it flipper actions.
Yes.
University teachers unions or associations are also beginning to,
get the point.
Voice out.
That's just how labor unions are. Right. When you do labor economics, they will tell you these are all trigger effects.
Yeah.
You do one,
and then
it has its own implications. You don't do, it also has implications.
Do you, from what you said as a politician, do you think that the previous government did this intentionally, to cause chaos within the health sector?
No, I wouldn't say that, because if you look at the items on the condition of service that was asked in 2024 May, you see that these are all enhanced conditions of service that will help and improve capacity of our people, to make sure that, for example, if you look at the issue of fuel allowance, book and research allowances, just like any other essential service like education, they get those things. So, or the rural incentive allowance for nurses to be posted to remote part of our country. So none of those things you can say is not desirous of improving work and productivity of labor. However, and also the period of it was drafted, that was in May 2024. Right. I'm sure the MPP government wouldn't have known whether they would lose the election or not. So,
of course, they were confident of winning.
Yes. So I'm sure that there was a genuine reason. And if you look at the items that they had tabled before the government, I don't think it's out of place. The only concern is that the MPP government did not avert their minds to the fiscal rigidities that the country was in. Because before we took office, there was a lot of revenue shortfalls in the country and escalating expenditures. So, in fact, the fiscal deficit as of September was already above 7%. So what it means is that government was spending way above its revenue, even as at that time, without implementing these conditions of service. Right. So for me, they could have been clear from day one. Develop a proper roadmap of when it will start. I know, like even if I was the president of this country, just inheriting a difficult economy like Ghana, the time that we inherited, there couldn't have been any expenditure like this that should be accepted.
Oh, okay.
Because it will put a lot of strain on the national coffers. Right. So for me, I know that the Ministry of Finance is also looking at the books, because look, let's be straight with ourselves and let's be honest to ourselves. You cannot spend what you don't have. As a country, I don't think that we have to degrade our base such that you need to borrow money in order to pay compensation of workers. I don't think that's the way forward. In fact, the total tax revenue of this country, 83% of total tax revenue is already paying compensations. So that means that from onset, you only have 17% of tax revenue for capital expenditure and goods and services. Right. So how do you develop your country?
Well, what will be the way forward? So, now they're demanding now. They want everything they are demanding to be executed now. Government says that, look, give us some breathing space. They are on strike. People are dying. I've checked, you know, the mortuary workers union are also saying more bodies are coming in recent times. Yeah.
Okay, so
what do you think government can do? Because going back to the negotiating table, they still demand, they want it now.
Okay, so I think sense of reasoning and leadership should play properly here. And the way forward, I see two possible way forward. First of all, the engagement must continue. I think that Ministry of Finance owes us the best, they owe us, let's say, the best outcome in terms of negotiation because they control the public purse. So I think they should discuss its implications on the national purse. Right. They must discuss it with leadership of the association. They must be open to the fiscals. They must see the data, and they must do models that will reflect when there is an upward in terms of expenditure, its implementation or the implication on Ghana. Right. They must be that level of openness. As the president so did with the workers union, TUC. So that they will know and appreciate the difficulties we are in as a country. Who doesn't want numerous ministers to create opportunity for your party people? Right. But because of the circumstance of our country, we needed to do things unusual because we're not in the usual periods. So the second one, apart from the engagement too, is that I don't always like when people are so entrenched with their positions.
You see political undertones?
Yes. You see, I don't want to believe that, but of what is going on now from the minority, you can see that they want even this strike to continue.
But not from the GRNA.
In fact, I don't want to cast that aspersion on them because I don't think they should do. But if they are, I think they should desist from that.
Because if you listen to some of the leadership, I have listened to a couple of them, you know, and some of the sentiments, the statements that come from them, looks very, very political. It sounds very, very political.
So,
because if you make assumptions between 2016 and 2020 and 2024, what are you trying to imply?
Exactly.
And I've heard some of the leadership make those analogies. And for me, it doesn't, you know, in as much as we all want, you know, those conditions to be improved for them to go back to work, certain statements from some leadership sometimes, you know,
so I think you are back to my point that there should be that level of reasonableness and leadership. You must know that your membership, in fact, this association represents a larger group of people.
I'm told over 120,000.
Good. So your personal interest should not cloud that of the collective sentiments. So for that matter, I would want them to revert back to their membership to explain the situations and also not take entrenched position. When you are in a negotiation process or arbitration process, there are two possible outcomes. Either your own survives or the other opposition survives, or none survives or both have win-win situations. That's a possible outcome for every arbitration or negotiation process. To that end, this entrenched position of the Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, I don't think is good. Like we already indicated that mortuaries are recording increasing numbers as a result of this strike action. They must look at the broader aspect of life. Look, I'm happy that this is not a situation where workers' salaries have not been paid. These are just enhanced perks and privileges that they want to be implemented. And for that matter, these are things that they can waive. They can let workers return back to work and whilst they pursue the other objective of getting government. And I'm pretty sure, like, if at this stage they return to the negotiation table and later come back and declare strike, I think Ghanaian public will agree with
them. And I think that education should be made clear.
Yes.
That it's not because of salaries.
Exactly.
It's what we call maybe perhaps add-ons.
The add-ons.
They are getting their salaries.
They are getting their salaries.
They want fuel, they want research, you know,
exactly.
small things.
So these are not things that should, yes, they want to say that there was an agreement in 2024. Right. But my point is that these are not part of your conditions of service ab initio. Right. Because every condition of service must reflect your appointment letters. And we know what your appointment letters state. However, government wanted to make sure that we enhance productivity of labor in the nurses and midwife front. So for when you look at it strictly speaking, you know that this is not something without that they cannot survive.
Right. Okay, so I want us to go and listen to, I wanted to bring her in studio, but I think her time. Honorable Grace Ayinso Dankwa.
Okay.
Professor, she's a professor.
Yeah, prof.
And she's made some, you know, some recommendations. Let's listen to Professor Grace Ayinso Dankwa, Member of Parliament for the Sikado Kitan constituency in the Central Region. Let's listen to what she had to say on this.
I am just appealing, really, this for me is just an appeal to the nurses to resume work, because the work we do is basically called essential services. What is essential service? That means that if we don't go to work, if we are not in the hospitals, it leads to people can die. I mean, people die when we are not there. And so it's very important that we also appreciate that our work is almost to a certain extent some sort of a calling. Also that our work we need a lot of passion and a lot of input to be there. So I'm just really appealing to the nurses who are on strike that they should go back to the hospital, and once we are there, I think that we can still continue to negotiate. Because if the nurses are not in the hospitals practically can't function. So sometimes maybe doctors cannot be there, but the hospital may function. But every base of every hospital in every country is actually the nurses. So no nurse, no hospital can function at all, not even to 10% capacity. So we are just appealing. We understand their condition of service, we understand their situation, but at the same time I feel like the two sides are not meeting because we are not understanding each other. And if we all go back to the drawing board, go back to work whilst we are doing this, because the truth of the matter is, if these nurses are not there, today is someone else. Maybe tomorrow you and I might need services in the hospital. Let us all come together as Ghanaians so that we can solve this problem comprehensively, so that in the final analysis that we don't lose precious Ghanaian life. I am just appealing, really, this for me is just an appeal to the nurses to resume work, because the work we do is basically called essential services. What is essential service? That means that if we don't go to work, if we are not in the hospitals, it leads to people can die. I mean, people die when we are not there. And so it's very important that we also appreciate that our work is almost to a certain extent.
All right, so that was Professor Grace Ayinso Dankwa, Member of Parliament for Sikado Kitan constituency in the Western region. Sorry, I said Central, but it's rather in the Western region. You know, making what we're all doing appeal. Yeah. At this stage, we can just appeal.
It's only appeal we can. But I think that apart from the appeal from our perspective, the law must also work, that we must respect the court order.
Right.
Whatever your issue is, I think you can argue it how to set the ruling aside. But for now,
can they be put out of job if they go, the court finds them in contempt?
Yes, but you see, because we describe them as essential, so what's the alternative?
Right.
Do you get the point? In fact, if you follow, Minister has even appealed to retired nurses to go back and help. That is the relevance of what we call essential, meaning that the replacement cost is very high, and the replacement cost results in more deaths. This is not a service that you can always get an alternative. The alternative is scary. So for that matter, that's why we describe them as essential. However, we are all guided by the rules of this country, and that respect of court orders is enshrined in our constitution and in other regulatory authorities. I just want to use this medium once again to call on them to look at the overall impact it has on our country. Even the nurses and midwives themselves, their families are, some of their families are in the hospitals as we speak. Because of enhanced perks, people should, you see, when you look at even the morality and the ethics, the job ethics, it tells you that you must not place monetary benefit above that of the service you are provided. For that, and I will continue to urge them that they must return to the negotiation table. You cannot negotiate or arbitrate properly with a better outcome whilst you are still pursuing the strike action.
Will you call for a resetting of the health sector? at the back of this? Quickly before we do.
When you say reset, it means that we must develop more robust systems.
Because I know I've lived in a jurisdiction where somebody will argue, look, in our part of the world, it is government who takes the employment part of nurses, okay? Government employs nurses. In other jurisdictions where I've lived a little bit, you have agencies who employ nurses. So let's say you have your agency, I have my agencies. My employee nurses works for the government. So if there are issues, I don't have an issue with the government. It's agencies who have issues with government.
Absolutely.
Can we look at that rule, you know, that part? That's why I'm asking if we can have maybe a reset of the health system.
You see, I'm sure it's a more organized and sophisticated economy you are talking about. I don't know where
the agencies, most part of Europe.
No,
you know.
But you see, the agencies in this country
and take the burden from government, the employment of nurses. Let's take it from government.
You see the difficulties already. Even how many of our sectors are formal. That's what you need to look at. In fact, the people in agencies and those things already have private health insurance that they can even get hospitals, private hospitals. I'm sure private hospitals are not on strike.
Yes.
You get the point? Yeah. They already, where I used to work before I entered Parliament, we already had a private health insurance schemes, and I'm sure most organizations these days have those private. But the people that suffer most in some of these circumstances are the people that have their income is below the poverty line. So you look at the overall impact it has on the poor man or the rural folks. They are those that suffer most. So I will not say that resetting is just the entire solution. Look, there's an opportunity once again as a country to build more orientation for the need to be patriotic. That's what we always lose as a country.
Right.
People don't feel like they owe allegiance to the state, because at the heart of this matter is your colleague man who will lose his or her life as a result of your absence. So if you are showing empathy to society or you are patriotic to this state, you look at that one to be more supreme than even emoluments. That's why if you go to Cuba and other places, nurses and teachers pride themselves with service delivery over entitlements and in terms of salaries. In fact, we must do issues that are productivity driven rather than entitlements. People, even if they don't go to work and they get salaries, so work and happiness are not correlated, where the person knows that if I don't work, I'll be entitled to salary. The previous government started this concept of Agenda 111. This is an opportunity once again for us to even get more nurses and more midwives. However, what type of motivation or what type of orientation are we giving to our nurses? In fact, people even end up by being nurses not because their passion is there. Maybe it was the fact that they didn't get the opportunity to go to university or they didn't get required. So let's remodel the concept of health and education so that people see that it is motivation or passion for the job. That's why I am there. Just like in Cuba and Philippines, where the whole thing is about motivation and passion. In every family, you know one or two people that is having passion for nursing and health service provision. So if you have something like that and government spends on educating that person, it is productivity that will drive the person's motivation for more resources and not entitlement. Last on this platform, let me just commend the leadership of the Midwives and Nurses Association. At least they've also been open for negotiation. However, we need more from them. At this stage, any effort that they want to do a one-sided outcome that they want will not resolve the problem, because you cannot pay what you don't have. That's what I just want people to understand. Yes, government accepted the agreement that was signed in May 2024, but looking at the fiscal rigidities of this country, right now we are having a lot of revenue shortfalls. Even in the energy sector, we are crying. You see, government is trying to even get more resources to solve a problem. Yet the resources, you can see the pushback that is getting from the citizens. So when you have situations like that, nurses and midwives, I'm begging you on this platform to look at the broader impact it has on livelihoods and not just the actions of government alone.
At the back of that, still we're talking about issues surrounding the motherland Ghana. You've been accused, talk about the NDC, of clandestinely going to Parliament at the dawn of dusk to introduce another e-levy, this time around the energy sector levy, 1 Ghana cedi, without proud, engagement with stakeholders nor the Ghanaian public. From where you sit, the minority thinks that this is the betrayal of public trust because perhaps you had told Ghanaians that we were not going to have any taxes. You remove certain taxes now. You put in more taxes to burden Ghanaians. How do you see this?
Okay, so look, it is not even the opinion of the minority or the opposition that I will just take. I will say generally, payment of tax has always been seen to be regressive, especially on livelihoods of people. So nobody ordinarily will be interested in paying taxes. However, you started your question with the saying that we introduce e-levy. And that's what I want to start my conversation from. You see,
e-levy, I mean the energy sector.
I understand. Yeah. I see people bundle it around. So if you say the e-levy, let's say energy recovery levy, and then the electronic levies. The difference is that this particular levy that government is proposing is a consumption tax. What it means is that you must consume a service before that levy can be deducted. The electronic levy...
But it has replaying effects.
No, I'm coming. I'll get there. I'm just saying that these are excise taxes or consumption taxes, meaning that a service has to be rendered first for that tax to be taken. Just like MTN is rendering service of Momo, and we pay 1% commission to them. That's a consumption tax or a consumption levy. However, the e-levy was not a consumption levy. What was that levy for? What service did they provide for us to consume and we get that money? What was the service that they did? So that's why some of us used to describe it as a high robbery or electronic robbery. Because what service did you do? Because in the first place, this, we pay communication service tax on every transaction that we do. Then you, the government of Ghana, collect corporate tax from these telcos. You collect licensing renewal fees from them. So what was the electronic levy for? So that's just aside the issue. Now the concern here is that we campaign on numerous policies that will reduce the tax burden or the difficult, the excruciating hardship that Ghanaians suffer. And anybody who is honest or listening to us from home will know that price of goods and services have begun to see reductions. In fact, just this morning, we met Importers and Exporters Association, we met GUTA, AGYEKUM, and all those things. Substantially, they are decreased in price. In fact, they demonstrated it through mini presentation and dashboards to indicate that, in fact, a ton of iron rods that used to be sold for about 9,400 is now at 8,300 or so. We saw a lot of Olam. They brought so many products that indicated that the gains that we are making as a result of the prudent economic measures is yielding results. That's the first point I want to draw. The second issue is that what was the tax for? You inherit an economy that is riddled with debt. The total public debt of this country when we came was 726 billion. That is minus the SOE's debt and IPP's debt. Where's the fiscal space for you to do anything? So when we took office, the first thing that we needed to do was to stabilize power. You remember, 2 days after President Mahama appointed the energy minister, he briefed the country on some of the difficulties with the supply of fuel. In fact, according to him then, we had less than a week supply fuel reserve. So it means that the country can easily plunge itself back to Domso. Ghana has transitioned properly from hydro to thermal. We must get it. Because of increasing demand, initially we were relying so much on Akosombo. Yeah. Now, Akosombo contributes less than 23%. We are moving more to thermal power or fossil fuel power and then renewable energy. How do we finance the high cost of generating power? Under the IMF program that we inherited in the first place, there was supposed to be a quarterly tariff adjustment in order to sustain the population growth and demand for power. That's number one. Number two is that the IMF at the last quarterly review when they came to Ghana applauded government for sustained economic recovery programs and improvement that we are seeing. However, the IMF said that there was still a lot of fiscal risk in the energy sector and that we must deal with it for us to get the next tranche. What did they mean? There was a presentation by IPPs to the IMF as part of their stakeholder engagement that suggested that Ghana owed $1.73 billion to the IPPs alone. Not only that, Ghana currently, as we speak, we have a shortfall to IPPs of $2 billion. That is minus ECG 68 billion. So VRA generates their power. The IPPs generate their power. It's not like they are not generating power. They are generating their power. But at the distribution end to consumer, we lose 40% of the generation. Right. Who pays for that loss? We call it the commercial and operational loss. Is that not it? Now, my question to every person listening to us, when you are confronted with these fiscal difficulties, the alternative is only one, Domso. Because you cannot sustain in the short run. Because the long run is to reduce those commercial losses. That's the long run. Right. That requires investment, private sector participation.
So, because of time, I think that a lot of Ghanaians you talk to believe that, look, we understand the situation. So we need to pay up. But the problem is that you took us by surprise.
Okay. So let me just land on this one and then I'll answer your question. So I'm saying that government of Ghana has a long-term plan of reducing commercial losses and then making sure that we also develop the second phase of the processing plant, the gas processing plant, to move us completely away from fossil fuel to gas. Now, you asked a question, Ghanaians were taken by surprise. Yes, because if you look at the PURC tariff scheme, government is prioritizing a lot of importation of liquid fuel, which is not part of the tariff build-up. As a result of that, we require annually $1.2 billion to buy liquid fuel. That is not captured by the tariff. In fact, the collection regime in Ghana is less than 70% collection because of the lifeline consumers. So when you have all those things, and government is saying that if we do not find this money to buy thermal plant, we will get back to Domso. In fact, there are already testimonies when you open your line of communities receiving power outages. That is the reality of when you have a cash-strapped sector like the energy sector. So we brought it under the certificate of urgency to tell Ghanaians how it is important for us to sustain industrial growth and residential usage. So I'm using this medium once again to say it is not for political reason that somebody will say 1 cedi. We were paying 16.62 Ghana cedis as of December 2024. We were paying export price per litre at 16.62 Ghana cedis. We paid it from even June 2024 up to December. Ghanaians accommodated this.
Are consumers going to, be at the receiving end?
No, they won't. Because since we assumed office, over the last 8 windows, price of goods, fuel at the ex-pump has already been declining.
But if a driver buys fuel for 5 cedis, now he's going to buy, let's say, about 6 cedis.
No, that's not how it does. Okay. That's not how it works. Currently, the fuel export price, even in Goil and other stations, is 12.38. The next window is expected to drop by 1.38%, which is less than the 1 cedi. The 1 cedi, the finance minister brought out the fiscal analysis that suggests that over the next 2 windows, we even see massive decrease. So the concern of Ghanaians rather should not be the 8 cedi, because 1 cedi, because it will bring it, even if it comes to 12.38 and it's still maintained at 12.38, we are still having a windfall of almost 4 Ghana cedis, because we were once paying 16.62 Ghana cedis. So the windfall of 5 Ghana cedis, because it came to about 11. So the windfall of 5 cedis, government is saying that instead of getting 5 cedi windfall, get only 4 cedi windfall. That is still a gain
in other jurisdictions, people pay windfall taxes. The government of Ghana is saying that let's burden share to make sure that we sustain the power sector for commercial uses and then residential uses. So don't let people confuse you with politics, saying that we took them by surprise, because MPP already took the S1 price up to 16.62 Ghana cedis.
I can see Justice Apia already in the studio, which means that my time is up. But I want to say thank you so much, Honorable, for passing through. I've been in discussion with Honorable Atta-Issa. He's a member of Parliament for Sagnarigo constituency and a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, looking at issues surrounding the strike action by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. We also dealt into the issues around the One Ghana city levy. I believe you've taken one or two issues or lessons out of this. Thank you so much for your time. My name is David Otokuno-Ato. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening.
Truly African.
I'm traveling to a place that shows the terrifying power of climate change. I'm going to visit the north of my country, where hundreds of thousands of families have lost their homes in floods. Climate change driven by fossil fuel use has increased the risk of flooding across the world. I've heard oil pollution in the area is making a bad situation even worse.
The oil in the environment and in contact with the human being is a silent killer. So with this flood right now, it is a disaster.
You can see the flooding waters here. Look at the water and look at the camp this side. The only thing that's supporting those people is this long water dive to keep them dry and safe. I've managed to get rare access to the area to try to see what's really going on. This is part of Unity State before the floods and after. In 2019, extreme flooding began. At the flood's peak in 2022, up to 70% of Unity State was underwater. More than 700,000 people have been affected across the country. Tens of thousands moved into Bentiu camp. Today I'm meeting a village elder called Nyakuma in camp. She's agreed to show us her flooded home. Nyakuma, male, chaba kamal. Tamam? Tamam. Yisim kef. Mada, mula makana, bawe, you. Matara kan kef umbare. Ya dam koko. Dun jeo ko da yi ka ta wong ngari yi ka. Yo ko uri ngan duel nan ka ye biluan. South Sudan has always had some flooding in the wet season, but it's becoming more extreme every year. It's now the end of the dry season, and the water's still here. Tamam, pilot? Nyakuma, Nyakuma, أنا ما بعرف كلام تكانو ده. كيف؟ مالي مقوى. مال ما تشوم. I'm panicking. I'm stressed. I am yet to get used to canoe because swinging left and right. Oh, we have cows around even.
The Nuer people of this area have always kept cattle, but the floods have changed everything.
Anna, what's in there? Okay. في بقرة في بيت؟ في بقر؟
Hey, hello. Okay, Tolia. Kapi, ya ok na ka.
Ah, shalo kulu. We made it, yes. Finally. This is Nyakuma's house. Mosh? Male. Sidu bait. Kif? Tamam. Alhamdulillah.
Without cattle and with crops underwater, food is scarce. Nyakuma and her family have no choice but to forage for food like the edible roots of water lilies.
na ajadel kulu shalu u mashi ni gidam ya nagdar ni fitish ya ni ajad leida ya da ikutu ya ni leida ya ni ajad ga na kullu ya ni ajad nas ya kulchunu ya ni ajad de يعني أقوله أو ده ما هو مولف طبعا زيتين لكن لما لقي ده معناه الفتش كانوا ده تفتش داك في جوابار ده يطلعوا وين يفور جانا نيورير غير كل كم جنوب دان يا جاوا جنوب دان وده تام غير كذا نفدا ضمن كده لكن ضمان بقى أصل يال صغار زي ده بلعب وفي لونغار يومي لكن يقول مويه رجع خلاص
ما في تاني
ناس بقي شنو ما بيزول بمشي مال وين ناس كله قاعد هسه بنينا فضلنا ده بناكل.
Sunday explained the background story of how they used to live here and now. Before they were really free. This space, it was occupied with people, kids playing around. They practice their cultural dances, and the kids even having their freedom. And also the huts, they have a space. But the water pushed them to a small spot like this. And he said they're living like a mosquito. And they cannot even have their freedom because now it's more of population pressure in one space. And it had reduced even the intercommunal conflict among them, yeah.
Sunday, Nyakuma and their daughter Nyariak invite me to join their hard-won meal.
Nyakuma, cham. Shandawa der akil fi jisim.
The flood waters harbor diseases. Nyakuma has recently recovered from malaria.
قالوا نيتو دارم ياكل له سمك. شغل قال كفل النية. طلع له سمك هناك ياكل.
خلاص هنمشي نجيب سمك ده ياكل كده.
ينو نورو دوري بيجام. أكيد نورو ما رجع تقول.
با ورا فين بقى موجي. موي كو يتيام دي. أنا.
قال لك أسا.
كان أنا باي كم. كأكو ريم دايا بقرار كتاعي لا جامي كأ. أنا. مثلا كوم ملوكو ده وشوي شوي إندي ده وانا نبيني ما شوال نان كم كو يوين شوال بقول جوته نه برو.
It's no wonder so many have moved into Bentiu camp. It's run by the United Nations and houses 140,000 people displaced by war and now by climate change. But life here is hard too and requires cash. And it's a constant battle to earn it. I meet Nyaida, who has recently spent all her savings to set up a tea shop.
Okay.
Asenda kam kababi.
Baida. Nothing like a sip. I took one to the ladder. What about then? They are Iran.
Oh. Magatamil bukhur? It's like a scent. It makes the place smells better because, you know, water is everywhere and the mud had a smell, so it's really healthy. You will not smell every time the sticky or stinky smell of the mud. It smells good. Moira mani shifinar hinagda. Moira fi barad da biga basi. Water, it's really hard to get here, despite people living in the flooding waters. Like for Nyaida, now she's filling a small barrel at $1. It's almost 3,000 South Sudanese pounds. It's crazy. Nyaida has to support her family of 7 children alone. But she has another way to earn cash. Charcoal. خلاص كده؟ It's an essential for camp life, and it's been harder to get because of the floods.
It's okay.
She earns a little profit from selling this charcoal to her neighbors. Okay. With money running low, Nyaida needs to get more charcoal to sell. She'll have to travel across the floodplains to gather wood and make charcoal.
Jenan da ko men ko ro kana man ga len jene yekan jini shan kel mu ga rudi baro dam baro lon kan rata
It's an 8-hour walk to the forest. There is fighting in the region, and she's leaving her kids for a week. It's a dangerous journey. The floods have hit our country when we are very vulnerable. South Sudan was founded only 13 years ago. After decades of civil war, we hoped for peace, but fighting continues in many areas. The nation's poor, and the government depends almost entirely on oil for income. The country's oil fields, including in Unity State, can produce crude oil worth approximately 9 million pounds sterling a day. The BBC has spoken to David Boju-Leju, formerly a senior engineer for GPOC, an oil consortium in Unity State.
I got a job with the Greater Pioneer Operating Company, GPOC, as construction supervisor in the 5 fields of Unity State. nothing can go without us knowing in the oil field.
AGYEKUM runs the Unity State oil field. It's a joint venture between Malaysian, Indian, and Chinese oil companies with South Sudan's government owning 5%. David alleges that AGYEKUM mismanages facilities, polluting the environment. He shared videos he recorded when he worked there.
I was employed into an environment where there is an existing pollution. I had witnessed wells spilling out. Oil spill is a recurring situation.
He says AGYEKUM's infrastructure is old and unsafe.
Oil spills from the wells itself, well heads. Oil spills from wells connecting other pipe connecting other wells. Oil spills from the main export pipeline that had happened in a big quantity in 2019 and 2020.
Lot of oil all over still. This oil exists for over 4 months still. It's an area near drinking sources for the community around. Been cultivating that side and all over that side of the road.
David left AGYEKUM in 2020 after 8 years. He says the pollution he saw was never cleared up and is more dangerous now than ever.
So with this flood right now, it is a disaster. The whole of that contaminated soil with the hydrocarbon is going to be flooded all over Unity State. I feel the effect of the oil in the environment and in contact with the human being is a silent killer.
To find out more about the impact of the oil pollution on communities, I'm on my way to Ofori-Atta, a settlement 20 kilometers north of Bentiu and right in the heart of the oil fields.
Armala, Yanathin, Yananda Runa Yana Kura.
Chief Chilhok leads a community of herders. They were displaced by fighting, and so the government assigned them this area to live and graze their cattle. They tell me they fear pollution from the nearby wells is making their cattle sick.
السنة ده ولا السنة اللي فاتت؟
السنة اللي فاتت في سنة قبل
كم بقر
في أيام الخريف
كم بقر؟
لكن يكون فضل كمتة.
Wow. Over 117,000 cows have died in Unity State in the last 2 years, according to the state's Minister of Agriculture, who blames it on flooding and oil pollution. He called on central government to investigate.
أنا زاري ما عندي الشركة ده لو قلنا ياك أنا بقرينا موت لكن كلين سعني ما بساعدك ما بساعدك
بس عندكم أبقار مثلا ولد بقرة شكله شين؟
بعد مرات يبقى شين بعد مرات يكون كويس
لكن اللي بيكون بيجي ما عنده راس بيكون بيجي ما عنده قراع بيكون بيجي صغير زي ده.
What of the cattle that roam around the oil field drinking water in those sources? Where do we see the end result of hydrocarbon?
This is a contaminated water with the oil, and you see the color. This water is covering kilometers of areas.
David thinks that livestock and people in the Roriak area are likely to be affected by the oil spills he saw, which may have seeped into the groundwater.
The water table is contaminated. If a sample of water is to be measured in several boreholes in Unity State, definitely majority of the borehole have unclean water. It's because the environment is polluted. Some of the oil chemical seeped down. It is carried by the water, the flood, and others seep down into the ground. This is the untold, unexposed environmental damage.
David says there is another factor polluting the area. Wastewater from oil production that wasn't properly treated.
Environmental pollutions come from oil spill in the environment, and then they produce water in the field production facilities. Oil is separated from water. Oil goes to the storage tank. The water separated has to be pumped back to the environment. These are the ponds. Water is received here. This water come and there are different sections of the ponds. Every day in our morning meeting in Jipok, there are reports of high content of oil in the produced water, which is not in conformity to international standard. And this water is injected back to the environment. The question is, where does water flow? Up to the people, up to the river, up to the water source where people drink, up to ponds where people catch fish, up to ponds where people swim. Who knows the amount of hydrocarbon in those water?
While Nyaida is away in the forest, her kids, Nyasheng and Mamuch, have to take on new responsibilities.
منى علمك تقشر سمك بس بتقعد تشوف السوق وهقوله طوالي بس عشان زمنه هاي اقعد كده بهنا خلاص يلا وروني بعد سمك ده ينجد منى جاي يخطو في نار
Panangin. Baru yang tahu baru apa. Baru. Awal sah. Kasambak كمياسات.
قولوا هاي ده ساهل خليه وريني صعب في شنو صعب في بيت هنا شنو بعمل.
هذا بقول كثير البرميل لما في مصري.
مشتاقين لماما ولا لا؟
قال نحن دايرين نوم أمي.
Nyaida has arrived in the forest, which is near Roriak. Friends and relatives have joined them to help.
Itu kam kida? Wow.
Nyaida tells me that before the floods, there wasn't the need for these long trips away from home.
Maum kan nas asin da bagaru gana ma ya do nas do khuruj da yidin ukin mu eja ajab nas no nas katir gata kashab wa amul kef da ma shan mahal fi yidina nas kullum fa mado
استشايل هم شنو؟ انت قاعد تفكر في شناسي؟
فكر يال بتاعه يال قاعدين في البيت عندي عادي لكن الثلاث يوم ده بيعمل لنا مشكلة في البيت ثاني يال قاعدين ساكت فكر في البيت
مش تخليت حاجة مع يال هناك؟
حاجة قاي لكن كلام قروي صعب عشان الدنيا ده داير قروي طوال
They light a fire in this structure to turn the wood to charcoal. The process takes days, and they can't go home until it's done. Meanwhile, they'll camp here, but it's near Roriak's oil fields, and they can't find clean water.
وما في شنو عشان يكون نظيف ديو الا يا
افتحوا كده افتحوا
وصلنا شانو لو شربت بطن بتاعه ما بيغ وجع
I had to see the chief of Roriak again. He tells me the families moved here by the government can't get clean water either.
اسي مويه في بيجاي؟ مويه ده نظيف؟
ما نظيف. كريدين وثاقو وين ما تاخذ تينا تك جاز تك chemical.
I meet more families living near the oil facilities.
يلا قعدت هنا جنبي محل تا كيميكال ده ما صعب محل ده.
The mothers say they want to stay here because there is a school nearby.
Wow.
وين جابوا كان؟
هل أفكار كتير قبل في راسك أنت خايف كلام مويه ده؟
جيك ترى من غير بيدي جيك كان غير جيك كان ليوكو تا أكل ما أنا أكل كان بيجوا ما بيجوا بعدين
جوها أنت خايف؟
دالكو تيه ينقط هو نقام تقطي نقام يجيودنو لا كنا يدشوجكو
نيتي نكتابانين وانا تين لازم كمانو رديت كمانو تينا مانو رد كوا ده ران تيجار جيله لوك كوا ما تقولنا فيديجيا ما تقولنا فيديجيا.
A German NGO, Sign of Hope, conducted 2 peer-reviewed studies of communities living near oil fields in Unity State. They found high sulfate content in the water and heavy metals in human hair samples. These are indicators of oil pollution and could increase the risk of birth defects. The NGO told the BBC that government officials said their work went against government interests. Under pressure, they withdrew their staff because of security concerns. Off camera, someone shows me a picture of a baby with birth defects who died here.
Kalam da saab ya Sultan. Kalam da saab. Dari narif kalamiyal al-buldun beras fate marrat din mafi.
Medan titina te chara to dora. Me chiwo to ke betul. Chiwo betul piu. Kan pi chara beliom kail ke marrat nan tereje betul. Kan gat bagadies tinin. Bagaladies che gareda ne cha nyot. Medan ne chi ko to tatona. Me cha ka gorpin. Ko la moy ka balagu ke duelwan. Che nyodu kon ta ko jok jong ma man ko dap ke njek ya leng ka to na me la na ke cha ko go.
What the chief tells me about the birth defects is really worrying, and I need to find out more. So I go to visit the hospital in Bentiu.
Midwives.
The doctor takes me to meet a mother and her newborn baby.
Ya udah. Ke ngundi na? Ikan di lawalin. Alas. Ata lingi di ngong jilong. Pi garme na. Ta ngong jitin long. Oh, siapa taban? Ya, mai usaran.
Đó ngon với cái chồng mấy quý vị thì mấy chồng đi ông là cái chồng.
Those people they have oil in the area. That's a fellow called mal. Those people are exposed also to oil and polish. Okay.
The hospital doesn't have the facilities to do genetic tests, and it's rarely possible to know for certain the cause of any genetic abnormality in a child. But the doctor thinks pollution might be a factor.
This woman come due to problem of oil. Okay, they used to rupture, this pipeline used to rupture, and those people have no access to clean water. They just drink from the river, where the river water and oil are mixed. That might be the problem.
Outside the ward, the doctor tells me he has seen many similar cases.
Like in Bantiu and Ruin, people are suffering. People born with no limb. People born with small head. Yes, microcephaly. Sometimes hydrocephalus. Yes. There are many. Sometimes a child will be born like this, will take only 1 day, will die. Another one will take 1 month, another one will take 1 year. Our environment is polluted by oil. Okay. The water must mix with the oil. If this water are not treated well, they will cause also abnormality, genetical abnormality. Okay.
He tells me he's been trying to keep track of cases of babies born with birth defects. He wants the government to keep a proper register of babies with genetic problems and investigate the causes.
What pains me much is the local that stay around, the effect that the community complain about their birth defects.
Hundreds of thousands of barrels got spilled in this area.
David says he challenged his managers.
In a meeting, I was able to speak. Why don't we clean the environment? Why do we take soil from a location which is polluted, and then we take to another locations to hide it?
But he says they didn't try to clean up the oil-polluted soil. merely told him to contain and hide the problem.
A lot has to be done. Contaminate soil with the pure oil. They are black, as you see, is totally black. Because it is connected at the roadside, the company say we have to take away because it's giving a very bad image to the company. So this soil, huge mountain of soil here, were transported and put here, hidden here in this location. There is no treatment plan for soil. There's nothing called treating soil in Unity State. No. Many people do not know what is happening here.
David says when the extreme rainfall started in 2019, they tried and failed to keep the pollution from getting into the flood water.
Because it was so huge, it's taking months and months. We had to produce a dike, just some heap of soil, but it was not enough to withstand the volume of water. And now the question, here is a flooding. Where will this soil be swept? Where will it end? The whole area is watery, and this soil mixed with the water. The hydrocarbons seep to the water, and this water is spreaded all over Unity.
In Bentiu, Nyaid is still not home. She's trapped in the forest by fighting in the area. Avland village elder Nyakuma and her family have had to leave their village to stay in her brother's hut near the camp.
Hey.
جسم كيف؟ تمام؟ شغال شنو الليلة؟
ولا شغال بس
هوش؟
تراب وشغال هوش. بس عن نفس الموضوع.
Okay. They've come because Nyakuma is sick. They suspect her malaria is back. Nyakuma, صباح الخير. كيف؟
مالي
تمام؟
تمام.
جسم كيف؟ جسم كيف؟
جسم يعني أنا جاي فأنا وورو لا تريم ده
ده شنو؟ أنت جاي في جوا موية؟
دي
عشان كده قاعد تكون عيان.
واتيال نينل وانا
أسي جسم سخن ولا بارد؟
بارد.
ما في ملاية تغطي؟ It's terrible outside. It's quite terrible. I ran to my container. My mind is still busy about people outside there. How are they managing, especially Nyakuma? She's been sick and The rain is just really, really strong. At least the container is keeping me safe. But thousands of displaced persons outside there, they're just stuck under their poor shelter. And the water level, also it's rising. Coming all the way this side, interacting with the people, especially women and children, it's a different world. It's catastrophic. This is enough. It's a torture. Sometimes you ignore your emotions just to take the message outside, to show the reality. Because it's enough emotion torture, what I'm seeing around here, yeah. David and his family have been forced into exile in Sweden. In 2020, David shared his evidence of pollution with South Sudanese lawyers who wanted to take legal action over oil pollution in Unity State.
I was contacted by someone who was preparing to sue the government because of these environmental pollutions, because of the pain that I have for a long period of time and what I see happening in the oil field affecting the people and the environment. I had to come in to provide the evidence to the court. I was not against the government, so I was sure I would be protected as a witness. But one day, a flight was sent when I was in the oil field in Unity State. Without my notice, a security personnel who is also working in the oil field told me, pick your bag, you asked to go to Juba. The government needs me to answer questions about the oil case. The security personnel who were near me hit my head with the pistol and forced me to sign this document without saying anything.
The lawyers have not pursued the case for pollution against the government.
Killings is not something new in South Sudan. It is daily. Do you think it would be very difficult for me to be disappeared? My life can easily be disappeared. The government feel anyone talk about the oil is touching the heart of the government. I had to seek for asylum, and I was given an asylum to Sweden. My spirit all is tied back home, and I miss it so much. In South Sudan, we really cultivate on our natural soil, and we feel, when we do this, we feel connected back home. Planting is in my blood.
Nyakuma has recovered from her bout of malaria.
Yillin no garar yer pala all akan yen kon ti lar ko ti lel ke ai tiadna ba gorba ba lel kon.
She's determined to go home as soon as she's strong enough.
Tapur wo pur bel wo pin wo ko wo piu to wo fin Rona bi pitwa, bina wara ba yang nara. Ba yang lo gurbo mo to ka yang mo da ko bina yang mo je. Ka wo to yang.
Nyaida and the others managed to hitch a ride out of the forest and bring their charcoal home safely.
Welcome.
مشاكل كثيرة. يا ما قال يا ما يا دوار كثير يلا نكون.
5 شوال بيجيب لك كم؟
After the 6 days Nyaida spent away, 5 pounds sterling for the charcoal is barely enough to cover her rent. But she's finally reunited with her kids. I'm so relieved that the families I've met are in a better way, but I'm very concerned by the risks they face from the environment, which are only getting worse. I'm back to Juba. The next plan is to meet the first Deputy Speaker for the Council of Estates, Honorable Mary Ayen. She will tell me more about the facts that are happening in the northern part of the country. Mary Ayen is a senior politician from the ruling party, from an oil-producing area. She's been raising concerns about children with birth defects with central government and thinks there could be many more cases.
I've seen myself, my own relatives, giving birth to children born with deformities. I know that also in most of the villages, it's only areas that are around hospital where those cases are reported, but most cases are not reported.
You have any evidence, photos you can share with us?
We have reports from hospital. I have many photos. So yes, there are evidences. This is one child. This is the other one. They are twins. So they were born in Parian Hospital. Actually, that was last April. There are so many cases, but this year, all of them died except this one. This child is still alive. It was born in Pamir, in Jamjang, Ruwe.
Mary says after mounting pressure, the government launched an environmental audit last year.
So samples from the human blood, from their hair, from soil, from water were taken and sent to laboratories. And when it was launched, the government declared that the results will come out in 90 days. And I think that was last September.
In August 2024, Petronas, part of the GPOC oil consortium in Unity State, announced it was pulling out of South Sudan. The government is blocking it from selling its assets, saying they are legally obliged to pay for an environmental cleanup first. Meanwhile, the government still has not released any environmental audits of the area.
The government had said they will produce an audit report in 1 year. Where has the 1 year ended? Why are they delaying in publishing the audit report? Why? And time will come, all these wells will dry off. Chinese will leave, Indian will leave, Petronas has left. What have they left with South Sudanese now? A cry. Money come, money go, but life is more precious. The environment will never come and go again. The environment is there permanent.
We have ice cream here in Sweden. Yeah, ice cream is part of life, I think, so here.
David and his family say they are happy in Sweden, but they are homesick.
My life is connected back home to our environment, our people, our culture, our moral values. That is the basic part of my life. And I think I miss it greatly, and I hope to get connected back home.
I feel like the situation in Unity State is a nightmare I can't forget, an environmental crisis of climate change and pollution. The people there don't have real information. The government hasn't yet released an environmental audit. There is no register of birth defects. They are left with so many questions, but no answers, and nowhere else to go.
Truly African.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Pan-African News here on Pan-African Television, coming to you live from our studios at Abelimpi 48 Wanaka Street, Accra, Ghana. We're also broadcasting across 46 neighboring countries and in some parts of Europe. My name is Makiza Micheline Latifa. We'll bring you details of the story shortly. Many thanks for choosing us this afternoon. Let's get started with our local stories. And President John Dramani Mahama has inaugurated the Police Council to oversee the effective administration and operational control of the Ghana Police Service. Delivering an address shortly after the inauguration, he entreated them to discharge their duties with integrity and professionalism.
Protecting human rights and reinforcing the very foundations of our democracy. We gather here not just to administer oaths, but to inspire hope in our institutions, the future of our police service, and above all, hope in the enduring power of justice to unite and elevate our nation. I extend my heartfelt congratulations to the newly appointed members of the Council, especially to Her Excellency, our Vice President. Your selection is no coincidence. It reflects your integrity, expertise, and proven dedication to serving your nation. You've been called to serve at a critical time when public confidence in our institutions is being tested and when the Ghana Police Service must reposition itself, I dare say reset itself, to meet the growing expectations of the Ghanaian people. You're now custodians of one of the most essential mandates in our republic, to guide the conduct, welfare, and effectiveness of our National Police Service. This is not a task to be taken lightly. It is a sacred trust, a moral and legal responsibility to uphold the dignity of the uniform, the sanctity of justice, and the security of every Ghanaian life. The Ghana Police Service must be a beacon of integrity. For too long, issues of politicization, arbitrary promotions, disregard for seniority, unfair postings, and breaches of professional conduct have cast shadows over the service's credibility. I'm fully aware of the frustrations among the ranks of the police service and the general public. Many of your officers feel sidelined and demoralized, and many citizens feel unheard and unprotected. These conditions are not sustainable in a just and democratic society. Today, I charge this council that we have just sworn in to be bold and impartial, address these grievances swiftly and justly, re-establish the trust within the service and between the service and the citizens. Do not allow power to overshadow fairness. Let professionalism, not political pressure,